truth, this is the place for you. No need to complicate it, it's best to keep it basic. Open the book, the word itself approved. He's Alpha and Omega, the answer since the early ages. What you should do is learn about the greatest. Just so you know, our door is always open. Let's study together instead of debating. Share our differences, let love heal all that's broken. For you, no need to complicate it, it's best to keep it basic. Open the book, the word itself approved. He's Alpha and Omega, the answer since the early ages. What you should do is learn about the greatest. Just so you know, our door is always open. Let's study together instead of debating. Share our differences, let love heal all that's broken.
And shalom to everyone. We're so glad to have you here with us today. This is another opportunity to bring Yahweh glory, honor, dominion, might, and power. This is a wonderful opportunity to be in him today. I hope you're ready to get going. We're talking about it. That's right. It's our Friday, and we're ready to get going. I hope that you guys can receive today a lot of what we'll be talking about. I know it seems contradictory. It seems like even some clickbait, but I want you to understand there's a real principle behind the subject matter for today. And where are we? What do we do? How do we do it? Why do we do it? When do we do it? For what purpose is it necessary? I'm hoping today that you get opportunity to really embrace the truths of what it is that Yah's word says we should, can, and could be doing at any given time. Well, a lot of people are already mad at us because of what we shared over this last week. And so we're going to see if this can continue. Not to irritate anybody, but to simply make it very clear that the word of Elohim has a plan many times we had not thought about. So today, this opportunity for us to bring into what is considered our hearing the words of Elohim. It is very important. It is extremely important to hear it, to look at it, to embrace it, to consider it, and just let the word do what the word does, helping us get to a place we need to get to. My job is to simply share the truth. I hope that you know that we, all of us, live not by our own might. We live by him who has sent us, him who has given us life, help, hope, and strength. And this very day, we are going to share from what he says. Man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds out of the mouth of Yahweh, who is our Elohim. Well, let's get started. We're going to have a word of prayer, and then we're going to get going, because I think it's necessary for us to embrace a little bit of truth as we try to bring help and hope to our world. Well, let's take the moment to pray, shall we? Father, we love, adore, magnify, exalt, and literally extol you. You alone are holy. You alone are righteous. You alone are our Elohim. There is none like you in all the earth. And we're asking you to grant us the wisdom and the understanding to be in, to know of, and to share what your word says for our very lives. This now is our hope. This now is our aspiration. This now is our joy. And in this space, we do bless you, we do exalt you, and we do extol you. There is none like you in all the earth, and we bless you for that ability. And we're asking now that you would grace us with the spirit of truth, with the spirit of understanding, and Father, break down our religious barriers that may hold us from hearing what you actually said in your word, because we've been preached at for so very long. I pray now, decrease me that you increase. I want your word. I need your will. I need your plan in my life. And I don't want anything that's not of you. So take control and commandeer this vessel. You alone are holy. You alone are righteous. And you alone are our Elohim. This is our earnest prayer in the mighty name of Yeshua HaMashiach. We all want to say, Amen. Well, it's a good day to be alive. Many of you have finished eating. You had the day off yesterday, and you worked yourself into a tizzy with all the wonderful foods you've all eaten. And it's a great thing. You got a chance to enjoy and experience family. I'm hoping you did just that. To our moderators, I need your help today because I've been under attack all week long based on the reality of this subject matter, because I've been ridiculed and people said, women are supposed to submit to men. How dare you say that men submit to women? So I've been barked at by some chihuahuas. I've been woofed at by a couple of Rottweilers. But as you know, Apostle, he ain't never scared. We're going to talk about this today. I'm so glad to have each and every one of you with us today. I want y'all to share this. Facebook, I need your help. I got more viewers and I got hearts, likes, and comments. And I know there's far greater that needs to go on to get the algorithms pumping and moving, but we're going to do this. Clubhouse, glad to have you. I hope you guys will share the room. The replays are on. I think I want to even leave the comments on today. How about that? Can we leave the chats in today on Facebook or Clubhouse? Clubhouse, should we leave the chats on today? Y'all want to chat on the chats today?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, see, I know some of y'all don't like when I cut the chats off on Clubhouse because you can't do your emojis, which give you the heart signs, the like signs, and the exclamation marks. I want you to understand the reason we cut the chats off is because when you talk the type of truth or the type of biblical interpretation that we render with only the word and not commentary from man, people who have been educated like myself with 2 PhDs from 2 different actual denominations in theology and world religion, people having been indoctrinated will literally only listen to a point, and then they will begin to defend the doctrine they were reared under, as I used to. So I cut the chats off because it was just getting so, every antagonistic, and it was unnecessary. So that's the only reason it got cut off. Now, we're going to keep it on today because I guess after y'all cooked all that in the kitchens and the ovens y'all did and your microwaves and everything, I guess I'm here for that smoke today. It's Friday and the Shabbat is about to come in. So I guess we are here for the smoke. So I guess I can say BTS, bring the smoke. Let's see what the word says, because the word is water, and where there is smoke, there is going to be definitely fire, but the water puts out unnecessary, and watch this, strange fire. I'm feeling some kind of way today, but we're going to teach and learn from what the writ has to say. All right. So join your neighbors, call some people, invite some folk. We got about 36 people on here, and I got 7 shares. So I want y'all to give me your best. Can you help me today? You know, I don't ask for this. I don't ask for any kind of sharing because we are who we are. We're in our group. We're in our pod. And this is what we live. And people can come in and go out and come in and go out. That doesn't matter to me. But today, I think it will be a good day, especially if you got some Christian friends and you know of. It'd be a good time to share the room and share the conversation on Clubhouse, as well as our beautiful spaces on Facebook and our YouTube scenery. So let's get started. Now, help me today, help me today, help me today, Yahweh, with this process. So we talked about, and I'm going to give you the screens if you're on Clubhouse, if you're on Facebook. We talked about we talked about part 1 of our series, Can a Woman Submit to a Man Who Was Not Led by Elohim? Well, there wasn't a lot of rhetoric and a lot of, fussing over this because the title meets a lot of what we have been indoctrinated with. Wives, submit to your husband, your own husbands, in the fear of God. Just submit to your husbands, right? Because we started Ephesians 5. And then we grab verses 22, and then we hear what's written in 1 Corinthians chapter number 7, and then we hear what Peter wrote in chapter 3. And so all of these things start to come into what we've been indoctrinated with. And then we run down Ephesians chapter 5, and we go down to verse number 25, where he then tells the man, love your wives, love your wives. Wives, submit. Husbands, love. Well, I want to make sure we're clear on what the Apostle Paul, who was a Yahweh and a Torah observant individual, teaching Ephesians, Grecians, how to be Torah observant. Because in Greece and in their culture, the wife must submit to her husband. And it sort of kind of almost went without notice. But Paul made a statement in Ephesians 5:21. And no matter how you read Ephesians 5, you will see where he switches thought at verse 20. He concludes a thought in verse 20 and then goes into a verse at verse 21 that says, submitting yourselves, Ephesians, Grecian, by nature people, non-Torah observant people, converted now to the faith of Yeshua HaMashiach. I, as your apostle, came and taught you Torah. Now that I'm not near you, I hear rumors, and I'm helping Timothy and you understand the faith and the system. So therefore, here are some quick tidbits on what you need to know about how Torah exists. So he says in verse 21 of Ephesians chapter 5, I'm going to run right there, and we want to put this in proper context for everybody, because we don't understand what submission means. We think that submission is someone always having the right to be over and someone having the ability to control everything. And these are the problems that I think we run into within Christendom. So let me get right to the matter so we can talk about this. Are y'all sharing this? Are y'all going to care about this today? Let's go to Ephesians 5. Look at what he says, verse 1. Ephesians 5, be ye therefore followers of Elohim as dear children. Why would he have to say that to these people unless they had not already been Torah observant? So I'm putting my Bible up on the screen for those of you on Facebook and YouTube so you can see and follow along as I read the writ. But verse 1, Paul makes a statement in Ephesians 5, be ye therefore followers of Elohim as dear children. He's telling them to follow the Torah. He says, walk in love as Messiah has also loved us and has given himself for us as an offering and a sacrifice for a sweet smelling savor unto Elohim, right? Then he says, avoid fornication, avoid uncleanness, avoid covetousness. Don't let it be named among you. Verse 4, neither filthiness nor foolish talking. Verse 5, for this you know that no whoremonger, nor unclean person, nor covetous person who is an idolater shall inherit the kingdom of Elohim, right? Verse 6 says, let no man deceive you with vain words. That means that there has been stuff coming in since Paul left that would literally be driving them contrary to what Paul taught them. Verse 7 says, be ye not therefore partakers with them. For you then were sometimes in that darkness, but now you're in the light. So walk now as children of the light. Get it? Verse number 9 says, for the fruit of the Spirit is all this goodness, righteousness. Verse 10, proving what is acceptable unto Adonai. Verse 11, have no fellowship with unfruitful works of darkness. Verse 12, for it's a shame to even speak of those things. Verse 13, but not all things, but all things that are reproved and are made manifest by the light. That's what you want to be a part of. You want to be a part of that light, which reproves the things that are not like it. Verse 14 says, wherefore, awake thou that sleep, arise from the dead. He's talking to Ephesians. They're not Torah observant. He says, arise from the dead, awake from the sleep that you're in, follow Messiah. He shall give you light, right? As you demonstrate him, you will understand him and how he lived. Verse 15, see then that you walk circumspectly according to what Messiah has done and not as fools. Verse 16, redeeming the time because the days are evil. Wherefore be not unwise, but understanding what the will of Adonai is. See how this is going? Verse 18, be not drunk with wine wherein is excess. Have a sip, but don't get drunk. But be ye filled with Ruach HaKodesh. Be ye filled with the word of Elohim. Verse 19, speaking to yourselves in psalms and hymns and spiritual songs, singing and making melodies in your heart unto Yahweh, giving thanks always for all things unto Elohim and the Father in the name of our Savior Yeshua HaMashiach. Then he says, submitting yourselves one to another in the fear of Elohim. And he's talking specifically about the marriage unit. He then breaks down what that looks like, because the questions that Paul had been receiving from the church at Ephesus through the great pastor Timothy, his son in ministry, though Timothy is Grecian. So when I put this topic up, many people think that we are going against the grain of what Christianity teaches, and we're saying that, hey, the husband is supposed to be the ruler over the church, over the wife, right? And then we broke down to you guys on this past Wednesday. I think today is Friday, right? Today's Friday, Sabbath tonight. Today is Friday. Yes. So past Wednesday, we talked about part 1, where we went back to the origination of the first human. Again, mankind was one species, and it had two entities within it, the female and the male, Yahweh took the female out, gave her own pulchritude, gave her own head, 2 ears, 2 eyes, 2 nose, 2 nostrils, 1 nose, 1 mouth, and 2 arms, 2 legs. She had her own. She was no longer connected and shared that space of the pulchritude that is the human that Yahweh hewn out of a mountainside and put both the male factor and female factor within. The male factor was the external extremities. He's the brawn. He is the go-getter. He is the provider. He is the protector of the womb, because the womb's responsibilities are very, very vast, very, very powerful, and absolutely necessary to the human existence. The core of that human body, if it's not strong, it has no agility, it has no strength. Even though there may be strength in the tentacles, like the arms, like the quads, like the shins, like the glutes, like the hamstrings. Without that core, it doesn't correlate. It doesn't show agility. It doesn't have a different level of strength, right? It doesn't have the endurance. You got to have a core. So the womb man represents the core in that type of analogy. So we broke all of that down in part 1. Go back and view that if you want to know and get caught up to where we are now. Because today's subject threw a hissy fit in my email. When I posted this, everybody, not everybody, but many have come at me and says, you know what, you need to sit down and you need to go and let God show you what my word is. And I got that from several people, several, not one, I mean several people. And then I said, this is one of the problems we have in Christendom. We learn something a certain way and think that it is an absolute. And I want to make this a quote. The word of God is not absolute. It is ever living. I want you to make that and get that very clear. When you go to theology school, the commentary that talks about the word of Elohim, that's a theory that is desired to be considered absolute. And that's where an error rests within the doctrines of Christianity in many instances. Someone please invite our guest up. Thank you. So I want us to really get this. We're going to have a monologue for a few minutes, and then we're going to go right into a dialogue, because I want to talk about this before we go into Shabbat. And I want anyone and everyone with a thought. And remember, we're always going to be, we don't argue here. We don't fight here. We don't fuss here. We don't antagonize here. If you got a thought, let's look at the thought, and then let's vet the thought through the word. No, not your favorite pastor. No, not your commentary. No, not Moody. No, not through C.W. Wiggins, not through John Polk, not through John Wesley, not your commentary. Let's go through what the writ says, and then understand the Hebrew and or the poor version of the Greek that is supposed to be translating what these authors of our 66 book or even 84 book Bible have been trying to tell us and or left record for us to receive. So the big thing became, how in the world is a man supposed to submit to a woman when the woman is supposed to submit to the man? Paul said it right here in Ephesians chapter 5. Peter speaks about it. Even it's discussed in the book of Genesis when Yahweh told the woman after he cursed her body, he told the woman, after you have your children, you're going to have children in pain. This is Genesis chapter 3, verses 15 and 16. Go back and read it. We did that also on part 1. He says, but your desire, my desire, Yahweh says, since I created you human and I separated you human, I want you, womb man, that I took out of the first human I made. I want you to submit and let him be the governor. He's telling her what he wants her to do, because it is quite clear she has her own body, which means she has her own mind. Y'all gonna get this and stop tripping like she don't. She got her own pecs. She got mammary glands that produce milk, but she got pecs. She's got triceps. She's got traps. She's got quads. She's got glutes. She's got hamstrings. She's got her own body. She got her own brain. She got her own mouth. She has her own larynx. She's got all of her own. She no longer shares it with that one human man. Now, in order for that man that Yahweh has now separated, but has made from the same pulchritude to function right, they got to be connected. That's why he tells her, though you're going to have children in pain and sorrow, you're going to have morning sickness, you're going to have toxicity in your ankles and all that good stuff that goes with it. You're going to be vomiting, throwing up, and all that when you get conceived. And then you're going to know you're pregnant. Then you're going to have Braxton Hicks, and you're going to have real labor, all that stuff. Listen, after all the pain you've been through, you're still, when you're done, don't put your love on that baby. You put your love back to the man, because that's how I designed it. Now, everybody got to remember, and if you get this, I want you to come off mic and say this with me. And if you get it, I want you to come off on your cues on Facebook and YouTube, and I want you to type it in. We are all free will agents. 1, 2, 3, come off mic. 1, 2, 3. We are all free will agents. It don't matter how he made us. He still made us with a free will. And though he has a desire, though he has a predestined path for us, we still choose to do whatever we want to do. All throughout your Bible, you have storylines of patriarchs such as Joshua who tell you, you got to choose this day who you're going to serve. You can choose to do whatever from heaven or from hell you want to do. So when Yahweh gives Ishai, who you call Eve, he gives her the instructions after he curses or punishes her body and, punishes the serpent and puts the serpent in a coil and makes him crawl and eat dust. Now the woman, she's got these issues with emotions. Hello. She got emotional issues, right? That's Yahweh. Yahweh put that there. Man didn't do it. Man don't make you emotional. Man triggers the emotional cachet you have, but Yahweh gave the emotions to women that are far greater than the emotions to men, because when he made man, both male and female, he separated man, give them both their bodies. Then they had equal emotions. It wasn't until this issue that Yahweh multiplied her emotions. That's why man, whenever she gets in her emotional state, you can't go at her and tell her to chill out. You can't go at her and tell her you're just doing too much. You better go to Elohim, because he gave her those emotions. You know why he did that, brothers? So you would come to him to know how to handle and work with her. And usually when the woman gets emotional in the marriage, it's because the man is far enough away from the father. Usually, I'm talking like 80% of the time. So when our women get emotional, men, husbands, since this is our day, because we had the Women's Day the other day, since this is our day, when the woman becomes emotional, brother, you can't fix it by being quiet. You can't fix it by being egregious with your voice. You can't fix it by being overpowering and controlling. You can't fix her emotional state. You got to go to who gave it to her. And that's where you are supposed to be a leader. That's where you have to submit to a process that she will actually come into alignment with you. Now, if I got just about 5 people that understands that, just say amen. 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 Now, watching this closely as we talk about should a man submit to a woman, now we go into our text. We had a real brief recap that took us about 20 minutes to do that. Now let's get into the core of what we're going to talk about. And I want to hear from you today on this, but I want to make sure you don't listen to respond. I want you to listen to receive. And I want to make this a statement. I want this to be a reel. Evangelist Peacock, I thank you for some of the reels you've made. Just sort of kind of off cuff. I appreciate those. But I really want this to be a reel, and I want y'all to get this. So I'm gonna set it up. Y'all figure out the timing, then you make it happen. But here's the reel I really want to hear coming back. Christianity is not God. Judaism is not God. His word, which both Judaism and Christendom utilize, that's where you find Elohim.
That's real talk.
Y'all get that? Christianity is not God. I don't care what your preacher says. If you can't vet it through that writ, It is not God. I don't care what your rabbi says. If you can't vet it through the writ, I don't care about the halakha, the Mishnah, the Talmud. I don't care about your Bible, the translations. I don't care about the KJV, the TLV, the Amplified. I don't care about the NIV, the New King James Version. I care about what that word says. You get them to their base translation. You find out what he wrote about them in the Hebrews, what the language was that started with it, and you read the word with the proper definitions. I don't care about your Greek interpretation. Christianity is not God. Judaism is not God. His word is his representation of who he is in the earth. That's why when you believe in his word, you have salvation. When you believe in his word, you understand his plan for the life of a human. Y'all can say amen. So now let's look clearly at what goes on here. Here is where the word of Elohim begins to make sense to us. Now I'm going to get right into this writ. Get right into the writ. Let's get right into the writ. Are y'all ready? Are y'all ready? Are y'all ready? Can we do it? Can we do it? Can we do it? Amen. No? Yes? Maybe so? All right.
Yes, sir.
Let's go. Look at this. Did y'all share? I hope y'all shared this with somebody because it's going to come back and it's going to be some fun. Listen to this very closely and watch this right now. Let's go to Ephesians chapter number 5. We read to you the first parts of Ephesians chapter 5, all the way down to verse number 20. And now we tell you in verse 20, he says, giving thanks always for all things unto Elohim and the Father. I'm going to share the screen with you guys. Giving all things unto Elohim, giving praise, or as it were, giving thanks to Elohim, who is Yahweh, in the name of Yeshua HaMashiach. Then he says, submitting yourselves one to another in the fear of Elohim. Where did we make the disconnect here? Because me submitting to you as another person on the streets is irrelevant. I don't have to submit to you. I can esteem you highly without submitting to you. So with what we've done within Christendom is that we've said, submitting yourselves one to another in the fear of Elohim. Why would I submit to you? I don't submit to my brother. I may submit to my parents, but once I have my own home, I live my own. So who else could he be talking about submitting to? Because my job is to esteem each person that I know higher than myself. That's not submitting. That's me esteeming. Y'all can talk to me. You can say amen, hit a heart sign, hit a love sign, hit an exclamation mark, do something. I left the chat on for you. So I want you to understand, he is not talking about Christians, and he's not talking about, as it were, the church. He uses the church, its relationship to Messiah, and the relationship of Yahweh to the Mashiach, and the Mashiach to the church, to help humanity understand marriage, because the Ephesians did not live Torah observantly. Paul is introducing them. He is literally indoctrinating them into what they've been converted to. Can I stop for a second and ask the question, do y'all get that?
Yes. Yes, sir. Yes. Yes, I do. Yes.
Now, as a theologian for a long time, before I began to read this thing in a way that was without the commentaries that I had to get for my courses and all of my syllabuses that I had to study and pass the test by, now a lot of what I've done and I've understood goes deeper than what we were told by the commentaries. The commentaries of men are limited at best, but the word of Elohim is wisdom at all that it speaks about. So when Paul is talking to the Ephesians, if you, New Testament Christians, do not understand that the New Testament is not a new covenant, it is not literally its title, a New Testament. If it is a New Testament in any way, let me come off mic so y'all can see my eyes. If the New Testament is a New Testament in any way, it is because Levi was the old carrier of the word. That high priest, Levi. In the new, quote unquote, testament, you have a new high priest now carrying the same words. And if you read Hebrews properly, it will tell you, this is my covenant that I will make with them. I will now put my word in their heads and in their hearts, rather than on stones and tablets. That is the new covenant that Messiah made. The same words that were written on the tablets, that were written in the Torah, he has placed them, ingrained them in your mind as well as mine, and in our hearts. That's the new covenant. He didn't change the words. He changed the carrier of the word. He changed the way you carry the word. He didn't change the word. The word is the same yesterday, today, and forever. It cannot change. So when you talk from the New Testament and say, all I need is Jesus, you lie, because he said you don't just need him. You watch him, but you need what's in him, which he left with you. My word have I left with you. My word do you hide in your heart, that you don't sin against me. Here is how that looks. Look at what Messiah says. I did not come to destroy the Torah, nor did I come to destroy the prophets who propagated the Torah. I came to show you how to live it. Now, when we come from this perspective that we learned in seminary, that the man is supposed to be submitted to the wife, and the wife is supposed to be submitted to the man, and the man got to learn how to love his wife. That is very true, but we took it and we did in Christendom 1, 2, 3.
Way too much.
We did just way too much with it. Now look, let's look back at what he wrote in them. Paul is writing to Ephesians. Ephesians are not Hebrews or Hebrew-speaking people. They are Grecian. They are people who come from demagoguery and Greek Catholicism. He has moved them into a converted state about the Torah, about he who hung on the cross. So when you go into the New Testament, as we have labeled it, you are going into a people. When you read the epistles, after the books of Acts, you read the epistles, you're reading about converted people who are not Jewish. They are not Sumerians. They are not Torah observant people. They are different ethnicities of race of people. They are Ephesians, Galatians, they are primarily Grecians, they are Asia Minor, and they are being brought into the knowledge of the word. They served other demigods. They served all these different That's why Paul says, you served all those other gods, but now you're serving the true and living God. The whole concept of Paul being on Mars Hill, this is for my theologians who think that they can fight against this. I want you to understand this. This is why Paul on Mars Hill, if you don't know what Mars Hill is, we'll talk about it another day, but those who do, this is what Mars Hill was about. When he says, you have all these plaques to all these other gods, but the biggest plaque, you don't have anything on. Well, let me tell you who that is. So this is proof that where Paul and his missionary journeys took him to places where they didn't know Elohim. They didn't know Yahweh. And Paul was the only real qualified of the disciples to transition and help with the conversion of those who served other demigods, because Paul was a Renaissance man. Paul was well trained in world theology. He was well trained in the Grecian way of life. He was also raised in a Roman province. He was also by blood Jewish, so he was raised as a theologian, as a Pharisee, though he was of Benjamin. Only Levi is trained like a Pharisee. Not Benjamin, not Uda. That's why Yeshua of Uda, being our new high priest, is a problem to theology. But you love Jesus so much you forget the process Elohim put in place. Levi is supposed to carry the writ. Yeshua is the living word. He is supposed to be a part of a promise to David that there'll always be a king sitting on my throne out of David's lineage. But now he's even made the king, because of the failure of Levi, the new high priest and king. So Yeshua is over both the church and the state. You got to know that. And stop getting preached at because it's a good, sweet, cute message and think that you can walk home and say, oh, didn't God move? You must understand that Yahweh uses a process. The New Testament does not change Yahweh's process. So here's the catch. Paul is teaching a people who never knew Yahweh's process, his process. So he says, now that you're believers, let me show this to you and put it on the screen. Now that you're believers, Ephesians, verse 21, submit yourselves one unto the other in fear of Yahweh. Wives, who are you submitting to? Wives, submit yourselves unto your own husbands as unto Adonai. For the husband, breaking it down to them per Torah, is the head of the wife. Even as Messiah is the head of the church, he is the savior of the body. But again, in Christendom, we went way too far with this because we were coming and talking from a male-dominant organization called Christianity. I said it with my whole heart. Verse 24 says, therefore, as the church is subject to Messiah, so let the wives be submitted to their own husbands in everything. And then he goes into verse 25 and says, husbands, love your wives. For Messiah also loved the church and gave himself for it. Gave himself for it. Can somebody say that's submittance?
That's submission. That's submission. That's submission.
That he might sanctify and cleanse it with the washing of the water by the word, meaning that his job is to submit the word of Elohim, submit the plan of Elohim, so that they, the unit of Elohim, can function and do the will of Elohim. In the earthen realm, they were made to literally serve. Now, once we get that, I want to just go back over this passage up here at the very top. He says, verse 21, submitting yourselves one to another in the fear of Elohim. Who are the ones who are supposed to submit themselves to each other? The wife in verse 22 and the husband in verse 25.
Amen.
Now, here's where the problem comes in, Miss Christendom. Y'all don't have to like me. It's okay. I just want everybody to be saved. But what we did was we put this lordship over people saying, submit to your pastor, submit to the leader of your church, submit to the leader of the organization. That was a part of the slavery and the colonializing that goes along with what people try to do when they're trying to rule and control folk. And you can use religion to do that. I'm going to say it again. You can use religion. You can use the Bible to do that. If you don't know the spirit of why the word was given. Because if there's a commonwealth concept with the word of Elohim, with the Torah as a governance for the kingdom, if there is a commonwealth concept, why are you trying to rule over people? In a commonwealth, meaning we have all things common. There is a hierarchy, but when you keep pushing, submit yourselves one to another, submit yourselves one to another. There is a passage, multiple passages that tell us to esteem one another higher than ourselves. That means I make it my business to esteem you. I don't have to. I'm not submitting to you. I'm esteeming you. There is a difference. Do y'all get the difference between submitting and esteeming?
Yes. Yes.
Yes, sir.
So if I esteem you, we're equal. But I'm saying, hey, bro, I want to see you win. I'm going to lift you up. I'm not submitting to you. I'm esteeming you. When we get past that piece, everything we're going to talk about right now makes a whole bunch of sense. So Paul, speaking to the Ephesian church, answering questions from letters he had received while he was abroad. He then gives them back answers to their questions, and those questions are noted. Paul is writing a letter. So he's breaking off and going into subjects as they come to mind. Submitting yourselves one to another. Because in Greece, the wife and the husband issue, well, that was a real male-dominant, misogynistic, male chauvinistic environment and society in Greece. Are the Ephesians Hebrews or Hebrew-speaking people? Are they Jewish people? Are the Ephesians Jewish people? Anybody? Are the Ephesians Jewish people? I just want to ask a simple question that can really help break some stuff free. Are Ephesians or Galatians or Philippians or Thessalonians or Corinthians, are they Hebrew-speaking Jewish people?
No.
Let's start there. So Paul is not talking to Hebrews or Hebrew-speaking people. He's not talking to Torah-observant people. He is helping them with the conversion and the culture of their conversion is now based on the governance of the Torah, which Paul is introducing to them and helping them to literally transition into. So when he's talking to them, he ain't talking to y'all like y'all the church. He's talking to them to give the gathering and understanding of the principles of Torah. And so husbands and wives, I know you guys have been living in that Grecian culture where you go to your priests or you go to the goddesses of the temple and y'all have these relationships and y'all don't have to be married to have sex and all this other stuff. But in the Torah, here is how we live. So now, so you understand that you are to submit yourselves one to another, because in your culture, you grew up in Ephesians, the man is supposed to rule the wife and she's supposed to follow behind him. The women don't speak out in public in Grecian culture by Grecian law. You don't open your mouth in public. If another man sees a man's wife speaking in a way they can report that becomes a problem. That man who is the head of the house is now going to be dealt with by the law. And that woman will also be dealt with by the law. And they are reared that way. They are literally cultured and they're nurtured in that culture. So Paul is saying, I know what you're used to, but submit yourselves one to the other in the fear of Elohim. What does that mean, the fear of Elohim? Well, when Yahweh made humanity, in Bereshit chapters number 1 and chapters number 2, he gave them the instruction, you are going to till the ground, humanity. Then he made humanity no longer singular, but a duality of persons externally. Then he says, as you were when you were internal, now that you are external, I want you to find a way to make it work the way I had you when you were one. But I want to make sure that the man remains the antenna, and the womb man, though having her own body, not in the core of man, now supports and helps to get done by virtue of skill sets what the assignment is. So man, I'm going to give you the assignment. You give it to your wife. Your core helps to carry it out. So her involvement in completion of project and completion of process and completion of task is vital. You don't beat her. You don't punch her in the face. You don't kick her. The bone in which, if we want to use that analogy, she was taken from and given her pulchritude was from your rib, which is where she was when she was being covered by the pulchritude of humanity. This way she knows that you are her covering, right? So I didn't take the bone to make her body out of your fist where you can punch her. I didn't take the bone out of your skull so you can rule over her as if you were some mental abuser. I did not take her bone, the bone for her body, out of your foot so you can kick her around. I took it from the rib cage because that's what protects your vital organs. She is vital to you. So you submit to her. Watch this. Now that she is external, you submit to her your most valuable possession. That's your seed. So man, when I give you vision, I give you understanding. Yahweh said, do y'all remember in the books of the prophets? Because we all ran with this only for the sake of pushing our church forward. That the vision comes from the pastor and he got to write the vision on the wall. And when you write the vision on the wall, they that see the vision, they run there with it and they get it done. That was really a Torah mindset. You know why? Because Yahweh had man to give the vision. He's the antenna. He is the one hearing in the atmosphere. At least he should be. And when he's hearing, he needs to have his wife, his companion with him. They need to be as one while he's getting the instructions so she can be on board and in line with what needs to be done. And she can confirm what he heard. This is why we say the phrase, but don't understand it. The family that prays together stays together. If my wife is praying in the north end of the house and I'm praying in the south end of the house, that is division. That means there is division. Listen, di means two. Vision is obvious. So if there is division, because she's praying in the south end, I'm praying in the north end, or she's praying in the west end, I'm praying in the east end of the same facility, of the same compound, of the same space, that is division. You can't put that any other way. And a house divided against itself can never stand. Her vision over there is different from his vision over here. And they both think that they're getting a vision from Elohim. But when Peter tells you, you need to consider each other to pray together because you're heirs together of the grace of life that Yahweh gave to the marriage unit, that Yahweh gave to the human he built to operate in this atmosphere and complete his will. Am I talking to y'all, or y'all just, am I talking too much? I need to be.
No, this is good, sir. It's good. You want point.
So when you have division, that means you have two visions. Now, the two can't walk together except they be agreed. So if the two walking together be agreed, are they two or are they one?
They're one.
What y'all not going to do is act like that wasn't deep. Two walking together must agree in order for them to walk together. So if there are two in agreement, are there really two or is there one?
One. There's one.
That's your marriage. So when Yahweh told her, when you're done having the children, which is your charge, I gave you guys a charge to multiply and reproduce in the earth. Once you've done that, I want your love to return to your husband. A little thing you don't pay attention to in the hospitals that help to deliver our babies, because it seems symptomatic, or it seems it's a systemic issue with the system used because of the sympathies we have as humans, which sort of kind of run contrary to the will of the Father. Ladies, you're going to get mad at me when I say this, but I'm talking about why men need to understand what submittance looks like. So in order for you to understand why the phrase is, should a man submit to a woman who is not Elohim led, you must understand what submittance is. That's our goal right now, to break down submittance. It does run, unfortunately, contrary to what many who are espousing the doctrine of marriage and men being the head of family. It does run contrary. And once you get it, it will adjust you. It will cause you to see things in a different light. So here's the catch. Here's the catch. When you look at the process of a marriage having a baby, or a woman having a baby in the hospital or with a midwife or what have you, in olden times, particularly biblical times, the man would be outside of the place and waiting until the labor took place, because they're having the child basically at home. Now we got hospitals, whatever, we've progressed technology wise, but let's just keep the system of understanding here. Let's keep the system so we can understand it. So in the hospitals, when the woman has her baby, can anybody tell me where they put the baby as soon as the baby is born? Where's the first place they put the baby?
In the arms of the mother.
In the arms of the mother. That's exactly right. And the father has to wait his turn.
Yes.
And you would think that's rightfully so, because she bore that child for 9 months, right?
Come on, Apostle.
I'm going somewhere. But our sympathies and our intellect have removed us from the instructions that humanity should have. So watch, Yahweh says, once you've had that child, your love turns to your spouse. It turns to the father of that child. You should be your spouse. You shouldn't be some side chick with a baby. Yeah, I'm just putting it out there. So it should be your covenant who you agreed to have this child with.
Rogers.
So what I need you to understand is that once you've had that child, they put that child on the mother's breast. Of course, that's where they're going to suck the pap from. Well, today y'all got Similac and Ifamil and everything else. And mom like, she ain't biting on me. No, they is not. You know, all that, whatever that looked like. But Yahweh had a plan before y'all had cows and goat's milk and systemized a synthetic milk. Or there was a real plan that the woman provide for the baby that just came out of her womb. So the process is through our sympathies and through our intellectual ideologies, we have now, because of how our cultures are, we have now just put the baby against the mother, and the mother is the owner of the baby. Yahweh don't see it that way. So a man, if Yahweh doesn't see it that way, the baby doesn't belong to the mother. Again, I said y'all gonna get mad at me, but just stay with us according to the faith of the writ, and then we'll deal with how we've now played it out and how we live it out in the cultures that we're all in. Just hear the history. Don't come at me because you think I'm trying to discredit the beautiful value of the womb man. If there is a womb, it has to incubate something. So what is incubated has to be a submittal from a different supply source. And if the man is the seed giver, should he submit his seed to a woman who is not following and being led by Elohim?
Wow.
See how we just ran with stuff and didn't put it in context to his instructions? So he needs to be able to submit seed to the womb man, which means that I want to duplicate myself, especially if he's a wise man. If he's just out there being some young joker, sowing his royal oats and all that stuff like that, he just wilding out and sexing everywhere, ain't got no commitment to nothing. He just wilding out. Ain't no reason to build a home, no reason to have a space, no reason to try and put yourself in a sustainable place and bring heritage and legacy to your own parenthood, right? And then you become like them. So that human, that man, needs to have a safe place to deposit the duplication of him. One, he needs to have a plan. Two, he needs to be willing to obey Elohim. And three, the woman shouldn't be with him unless he's submitted to Elohim himself. That means that that man also needs to feel comfortable submitting his seed of duplication in the earth of another human to a particular woman. I don't want my seed duplicated by just any person, and no woman should want to receive seed to duplicate a clown. When we understand what sex is about and what sex is not about, we are a lot better off in a society who can build its own way of sustaining itself, i.e., a commonwealth. So, woman, she submits herself to a man just to have his baby. We got to understand the concept of submittal. So you learned in part one that the woman submits her ideals once the man submits the plan. Man, I'm a man. I'm a full-grown bad man. I've done a lot of things, good and bad. I've made and succeeded, and I failed as well. But let me tell you something. I need woman to help me get it done. The best vice presidents I ever had was a woman who understood my vision. The best friend I ever had, the best person I ever lived with was a woman who wanted to understand me. And I was too young and dumb to understand what that looked like and how to utilize that. Now that I'm older, he saw the best in me. Y'all know what I'm talking about?
Oh, yes.
I'm wiser now. I'm stronger now. I understand things now. So if I would be in alignment with what his word says, that woman should not just submit herself because the man is supposed to be in charge. That woman is brilliant. She is an actual element Yahweh's providing a man comparable to the man for partnership as a man to let humanity do the will of the divine. I gotta submit the plan Yahweh gave me to the only tool capable of getting that job done. I'm a tool, I'm an antenna. She's a tool, she's resource. Vision to resource makes success. Resource to vision accomplishes a task. And our problem is we're submitting our ideas. See, when a man is the head of his house, and then while he's in his house, he and his wife are having conflict and issues, and she might not be feeling him or hearing him because he has done and said and been so inconsistent in his life. And now she might not be giving him the loving he needs. So guess what he does? He finds Clarice outside. Do you think that he's just sexing with Clarice? No, he's not just with Clarice because she got a bad body. She got a nice set of boobs. She got a nice buttocks. And whatever she does well. He's not with her there. He's with her because he can confide in her. Y'all gonna get this in a minute. So he's submitting something to her he's not feeling comfortable submitting home. Now that that's been laid out there. Why the submittal at home? Why the disagreement at home? Why the conflict at home? Why the separation at home? Whole other ballpark. But the question is, should a man be submitting his vision, which is his wealth, which is his heritage, which is his lineage, to just any woman? Or should it be to a woman who at least is led by Elohim and his word? Let me say it again, ladies. How you think the side chick know about the children? That the father, that your cheating husband knows, loves, cares for.
He told.
So what did he do?
He felt comfortable.
What did he do? He submitted vital information, precious information to a place he felt comfortable in. Right or wrong, it's the process. It's an innate process. So should the man submit to just any woman? That's the thing we need to make sure we stay close and focused on. Because we act like the man don't submit to the woman. I would be a fool if I did not, and I'm a real man. Try me. I need a place I can lay my head as a man. I need a place I can confide in as a man. You talk about Samson and Delilah all you want. You can talk about that man all you want, but Samson was looking for a safe place he could confide in, and Delilah's behind did that for him. Granted, there was a plan to destroy a whole nation, which is why you need to pay attention to what it is that the woman does. Samson needed someone. He was in his own head doing his own thing, but at the end of the day, the person they were trying to get Samson for, he didn't feel comfortable confiding in that person. Y'all do know that was this ain't the one. And then when you're trying to, as a judge of a region, now you're under a particular protocol of those people who have a job description for you as a judge. You escape that. And then you go somewhere that is not your people. And then you end up, because you're even out there talking about why you're not with your own people, you're confiding, you are submitting. You can't change that conversation or that definition. And we think that because we're men, we wolf out instructions and it better be done, or goddamn everything. Men have to have a place. And we can get any place to sow into, I promise you. There is not a lack of places he can lay his head. There is not a lack of places he can sow his seed. There is not a lack of places he can tell whatever he wants to tell. And the issue is, the wisdom is knowing who will actually value what you have actually confided. Everything's good until it's not. So should a person, a man, confide in a woman who was not Elohim led? Absolutely not. Do we do it? Absolutely. Do we have Delilahs? Absolutely. Is Delilah the problem? Nope. Oh, what you say? Delilah ain't the problem. His own people are, because he can't find a safe place to confide in there. Oh my goodness, you just broke down Samson and Delilah in a way I'd never heard. I know I did. And I'm coming back for it in 2 months. Samson is with Delilah because what he can't find inside of the region he's in. Did he search long enough? Maybe not. But the pressures of his actual job description, most don't know that Samson is a judge of Israel. Therefore, they're looking for him to be with someone, but he's being presented people that he's like, I ain't vibing with them. Well, you got to do something. You got to get with somebody. Yeah, we're your dad. We're your mom, man. We're the other people. We're the elders of the city. And we're telling you, you need to, yeah, but none of them, I can't, their work ethic, their habit. I just can't. I know who I am, but and then he's like, y'all pressure me too much. And he runs. He doesn't just find the first cute eyes and pretty behind. Am I glorifying Delilah? No. Am I excusing Delilah? Absolutely not. But you need to understand the story. What's the motive? How did he get out there? If everything was Gucci in his space, he would never leave it. And then he got out into a space that he knew was somewhat controversial, but he found someone who convinced him, even before the elders did, that, hey, you can stay here if you want. Just rest here with me. And then pillow talk, sweet nothings, a continued relationship, a consistency in dialogue and never hearing about it in the streets. Yeah, you're feeling pretty much confident. You know it ain't right. I'm not supposed to be with you. I get it. You Philistines, we're enemies. And if a war break out, you know it's going to happen. But at the end of the day, he is on the other side, believing that there can be a possible conversion in who she is and where she is. But he could confide in her. So much so, he submitted to her.
Amen. We get it. Wow.
All right, we can start the dialogue now. Oh, I lost half the broadcast. Everybody just signed off. Okay. Are y'all all right? I know my brothers can't stand me right now.
It's all good. It's all good. Oh yes.
All right, so we have anybody who has anything that you'd like to talk about or share about? Moderators, please. My screen, my platform. Dear God, help me. What do we got?
Elder Rogers.
All right, thank you. Elder Rogers, go.
Shalom, everyone. By listening to you, kind of understand what I've never been able to understand. When a woman has a baby, and then the husband gets extremely jealous because of the time and the effort and so forth and so on it takes to nurture and raise that child. I never understood. I always thought that, hey, get on board and let's work at this together. But now when you bring out the point of that love going back to that husband, and it's not happening like that, then I see why.
Let me interject with you, Elder. It's not the love going back to the father of the baby. It's her desire.
Okay, so
that's a whole, and this is again where we just group something up into a blanket and throw it out and say that this is what you're going to take. We throw it in a bag. No, he says your desire. I can desire something and not love it. Oh my God, I gotta go.
True enough. So that even makes it more, because the husband would expect the wife to desire him, but that desire is being diverted. So I guess that's why
the desire then becomes diverted because the child is born. See, sometimes when you come through pain and having had suffered through something, even with the partner, you can, though mad at your partner, literally, because she's having child pains because of Adam's sin. That's straight up. At the risk of being subjective. Hold on. At the risk of being subjective, I do not believe if Adam would have owned up to the sin, that the serpent or the woman would have had their bodies cursed. Let that sink in. When Yahweh said what happened, Adam point and push the blame. He is the king. So you're saying they're the problem? No problem. And then she, being second in command, said it was a serpent. You're saying, and you're passing the buck too? Okay, no problem. That's how I believe they got their disfigurement. If Adam would have said, I did this, I don't think that the woman would have to go through childbearing the way she did, and the serpent would have had been reduced to a snake crawling around. Subjective, you don't have to believe that. You don't have to receive that. But it's really strange how when he comes and says, Adam, what have you done? Where are you? The woman you gave me. Okay, well, you're in charge. So you're telling me to punish the woman. You're telling me to punish, and she's telling me to punish the serpent. No problem. But here's your punishment, man. Everything you submit to this ground now is you're going to have to work it by your hands, the sweat of your brow, and the work of your backbone. Whereas before you just walked through and everything just honored you. See, it's really interesting. So when you understand that man is the seed giver, I do a teaching and a book that needs to come out. It's called The Farmer, the Ground, and the Seed. Has anybody ever heard The Farmer, the Ground, and the Seed?
Good teaching, yes. Yes, sir.
So the farmer is the seed giver. So if and Elder Rogers, I know you know this, and I'll get to your question in a second, and I'm open to talk to anybody else about this. If the farmer is the man, the woman is in fact the parcel of land, and the seed is the child. That's a family unit. The farmer has the seed bag. The woman is the incubating process and the incubating part for bringing what that seed is into life. So if the farmer has apple seed and he plants apple seed into a parcel of land. That land he needs to take care of. He needs to have it mowed. He needs to have weeds dug up out of it. He needs to make it pH balanced, mercury oxygenated. He needs it to be properly fertilized. He needed to be turned over and moisturized and hydrated. That land should never have to worry about anything. He should not be urinating on that ground unless there's a scientific reason for it. He needs to make sure he's not stepping on that ground and burning and doing bonfires on that ground. If that's the ground he cares about, that's going to bring him sustainability. That parcel of ground, he picks it. He who finds a parcel of land to build a life with and upon finds a good thing. Oh, y'all thought she was just a tool. She's an incubator. She is Mother Earth. He is Yahweh, the Father. His hand hewn out of earth and made humanity. Now, the seed giver is the man. The incubator is the womb man. He submits that seed. If I take from my seed pack of apples and I plant it in a parcel of ground in Florida, Florida's ground is sandy. And then if I take from that same apple I ate, one of the other seeds from it, and I planted it in Georgia, that dirt is red. Then if I take the last seed from that apple I ate and plant it in New Jersey, all those apple trees belong to me. They belong to the man. But they're changed by the region they've been planted in. The apples from Georgia are going to be redder than the apples from Jersey, which will be greener than the apples that are in Florida from the same seed, because they will be sandier, they will be lighter. The seed doesn't belong to the woman. The woman incubates and helps the duplication process of the intention of the farmer. Our problem is we have unintentional farmers. No, it didn't work. Yeah, viewership just dropped again. Okay.
Yeah, that's right. That's true. I get this.
We have unintentional farmers. We have unintentional seed carriers. Yahweh says very clearly that if in fact, I plant a seed in the ground. Listen, and ladies, this is not disrespecting of you guys. I value you. You are the better created of the human species. Please understand me in theory and in instructions of the writ. Listen, if I take a seed as the farmer and I plant it in a parcel of ground that I now found, I dug up all the junk that the last partner left. I took all the different negative things. I made an irrigation pathway to make sure that this parcel of land stays hydrated. It has proper pH balance. I've removed and helped to remove all the actual weeds from that place. I've made that parcel of ground. I've aided that parcel of ground in being what it is. I didn't do it. I aided it because it's going to do it naturally. The ground does things. That's a whole nother scientific conversation. The ground does things to its ecology and its system. That's amazing if you ever really study that. So when that parcel of ground is a healthy ground, that man submits its seed. That farmer submits its seed. It then comes back and covers over that seed and waters that seed and fertilizes that seed. But once that seed now in the care of the womb man, in the care of the incubator of the ground, once that ground helps that seed to go straight up, helps it to spread out its roots, feeds it from itself, then that produces the ground and the stalk and the bark and everything to come out, the branches, the limbs, the fruit, the leaves. Can the ground direct now where that fruit goes? No, it can't. But the seed giver can. The seed giver determines whether we're going to take this fruit and put it to market, or we're going to take this fruit and make a pie out of it, or a souffle, or share it with a neighbor. The farmer owns the fruit. That's why he has to be careful who he submits his seed to.
Whoa! Whoa! Whoa!
All right. So when we're walking around here doing all that we do, the mother, you are not misplayed, because the mother and the husband are supposed to be on the same page when they have a child. They're supposed to be on the same page when they have a child. It ain't a fact that can y'all let me be Frank on Friday? Can it be Frank Friday? Can I be Frank Friday today? Can I do it? I need the permission.
Amen. Go ahead, Taurus. Go ahead.
Somebody type in and say we need Frank Friday. Just type it in, Frank Friday. Let me have Frank Friday. Let me be Frank today. Thank you. The husband and the wife, let me say it this way. A parenthood should not exist because the condom broke.
Ouch. Well, frankly, that's a matter of fact.
A child should not be here because of an irresponsible element of not wearing a condom. I'm talking in our modern day terms. Y'all think I'm not a pastor now, but it's okay. It's good. A lot of people think I'm not a lot of stuff, but just pay attention. The way Elohim designed for children is that when they come into the earth, they are a blessing to their parenthood. So the parenthood needs to be saying, all right, we're planning to sow on this time. All right, babe, I'm ovulating during this month. I'm ovulating during this time. Here's to make sure that she's properly hydrated, properly nutritioned, and she is in the best possible shape of her life. Okay, babe, are you ready? You ready to do this? Okay, babe, I'm ready. I want to give you a child. Let me submit. Why y'all sitting there looking at me like I'm crazy? I'm looking at this camera. I'm sorry.
This is good. This is good.
A child should not be the product of a lustful, irresponsible moment. Even in a marriage. And just because you married don't mean that you were not irresponsible in the purpose for why you're bringing this child into the earth. There was not, in most cases of marriages, a thought and an ideal in most cases where we're saying we're ready to have a child. We've prepared the nursery. We've prepared the home. We've not even got pregnant yet. It's not even a matter of she is saying, well, I never could get pregnant, or I had 3 abortions, or I had 2 miscarriages. Not even that concept. I'm talking about a couple getting together. First off, the couple got married because they could afford each other. They got married because they were both solid as an individual, and the 2 pieces came together. They weren't 50-50. They were 100-100, which made them twice the power they were alone. Then you come together and say, all right, we're prepared. We are financially structured. We are influential within our community. We're now positioned to have a child. Let's build the child its own bed space. Let's get this room prepared for them, and we're ready for it. Whether it's a boy or a girl, we're going to have a child. Are you ready, baby? Baby, I'm ready. Our finances are in order. Yes. Our insurances are in order. Yes. A child should be born in that, though utopic, construct. So the concept of should a man submit to a wife who is not of Elohim and led by Elohim goes even further than just the religious implications that the title puts us in. And what would be Elohim like is that the wife and the husband are on the same page. How many of y'all will admit, y'all, because I can, How many of y'all will admit you were shocked when you found that you got pregnant?
Amen. Yes, sir. I was.
And with that shock came disappointment.
Amen. Amen.
The brothers too. Because we was like, oh, snap, what? Huh? It ain't mine. It wasn't me. Acting like Shaggy did. It wasn't me. It wasn't me. Boy, you was with, no, it wasn't me. It wasn't me. It wasn't me. I know you was talking to Clarence over there too. So it wasn't me. It was, you shocked. She shocked and you shocked. That is not how a child should come into this earth. But yet we've been nurturing that as a culture far too long.
Far too long.
So what's that got to do with the conversation we're having today about should a man submit? To a woman who's not Elohim led. That ideal of anything Elohim like is that Yahweh in his instructions wanted the man and the woman to be together. I don't mean like, y'all, the way y'all see marriage and being in the same house. That's just a fact. But to be together means in lockstep, one with the other. We need a child. All right, let's plan. When are we ready for it? Let's bring it in and cultivate it. Or them. We need 7 children to do our business. Once we, in these early stages, get it up and going, the way we're going to scale it out is we're going to need employees. And I know people don't like that conversation. That's like you trying to build a business. You are. The man is the CEO. The woman is the CFO and the COO and the OP, OM, and HR. And y'all work together to get it all done. And then you hire your employees. In tight, you have children now that you know where you're going. And they'll carry what you started into the next generation. And then their children into the next generation. You don't believe me? Talk to the Vanderbilts. Talk to the Rockefellers. Talk to the Bilderbergs. Miss me with your church viewpoint. Elohim had a real plan. Should you just be submitting your seed, brothers, anywhere? Should you just be submitting your plans to any woman? No, you need to be with someone in an Elohimic environment who literally is lockstep with you. And until you get that, you don't submit. You esteem, you appreciate, you honor. But you should submit who you are and what you are. Because once you get married, it's you and them against the world. In the posture of the structure of the home that Elohim builds, except he build the home, they that labor is in vain. In the construct that he desires, I made humanity. I took the womb out of the first human, gave it its own pulchritude, and I'm still using the first human masculinity as the antenna. But the antenna has to hear me. Once it hears me, submits it now to the resource I've given it, because the resource then goes into overdrive and comes up with plans that bring the vision to fruition. Then she can tell the man, hey, we need to do this. Hey, we need this financing. Hey, we need these tools. He says, babe, I agree. Babe, let's look at this. I got some stuff over here. I got some thoughts and ideas. They sit down with powwows at tables, and then the vision meets the resource, and then they determine which way forward. Submit yourselves one to the other. I'm done talking.
Rogers.
All right, Elder Rogers, go.
Okay, the second of that was, please help me out with this. When it said that her pains and so forth would be multiplied, going through an academic.
Her sorrows will be multiplied. Let me hear you right.
Yeah.
Her sorrows will be multiplied. Sorrows is two different places in that passage. So we want to make sure we're clear on that, because as a pastor, I can't let that go out of you like that. So when he gives this ideal in chapter 3, verse number, I'm going to put it on the screen for y'all to see this, because I don't want that to come out wrong. I know you're going somewhere, but watch where we got to be at when we do it. In verse 15, he said to the woman, I will greatly multiply your sorrows. That word there, sorrows, is the word itzabon, right? It means worrisome, labor, sorrowful. That worrisome, i.e. laborious, and in pain, right? I will greatly multiply your sorrows, your worrisomeness, your emotions, right? Then you have the next word, sorrow, which is the word etzpe, which means as an earthen vessel, you're going to be in pain, grieved, in labor. That's sorrow. Did y'all notice that? Nobody pays attention to that. I want y'all to see this. I'm going to do it again. If you're watching me on Facebook, pay attention to the concordance. So in verse 16, I'm putting it to the top of the screen. Verse 16, the word under there, it says, unto him, unto the woman, Elohim said, I will greatly multiply your sorrows. Boom. That word sorrows is the word itzabah, which means over here to the left on the screen, if you're looking, that word means worrisome. It does indict labor and pain, but this is its issue, worrisome. That's the word and the key for emotions. So it comes from that other word, which comes back later on to let you know, watch this, you are going to be displeased, grieved, vexed, unrest. That's the emotional state that Yahweh increased for the womb man. Now, he says, I will greatly multiply your sorrows and your conceptions. In sorrow, that new word is etz. Okay? That word is etz. And that means your pangs, your painful toil in this earthen vessel, your labor, your grievous labor, your sorrow. And it can also indict whether it be of body or mind. So the first thing we have to understand as people reading the writ is understanding the definitions for the words you read. Because if you did not, how many of you will admit you did not know that that word sorrow, though spelled exactly the same in English, had two separate meanings?
I didn't know that. I didn't know that. I didn't know that.
Does anybody think that that's important?
It's very important. Sure is.
So when Yahweh says, I will greatly multiply your sorrows and your conception, then he breaks down what it meant to increase the sorrows in conception. So when he greatly multiplied man's or woman's sorrows, he greatly multiplied her emotions. So if you look at the screen, I've got my face in front of you I've got two fingers here, 10 fingers up. I got two hands, right? So he gave the woman her body. The man already had his. They both had 5 emotions. Because of this, he multiplied her emotions greatly. So he's like, I don't understand why you're so emotional. My emotions don't trigger like yours do. Well, Yahweh did that. And the only way you can figure out what her problem is to go to him. To figure out her problem, you got to go to him because he's the one that multiplied her emotions, not you. Yahweh put a fail-safe plan that for the union to work, whenever she is operating from up here and you down here, you seeing what she's going through, you then look to him and like, okay, how do I bring her back down to me? How do I come up to her? I mean, where is this at? Only Yahweh, when he asks his Father, I don't know what happened, but her emotions is all over the place. I don't understand. I got these emotions right here. That's all I know. What is it with her? And and now the man is like, I don't know. So Yahweh's like, okay, let me talk to you. And then he talks, brings her back down, and now they're back at the table and they're talking together. Okay, babe, now I understand your issues. I'm willing to work with you. How do I didn't know that would trigger you to go like that. So here's what I got. Only because he went to Yahweh about the emotions that Yahweh gave the woman.
Understood. Thank you for that. And where I was coming from was that I have in the past been heard, well, I'll say this much. I have been taught that women were not supposed to go through any type of anything. It was supposed to be just like a piece of cake.
I don't understand that. I don't, elder. Mm-mm.
Okay.
No, come on. Talk to us. Talk to the class because you talking to your family. Y'all got that language over there I can't understand. Talk to Talk to me. I don't understand what you said.
See, that's why I didn't invite you to the dinner now. Okay, so I have been taught previously that
In Christendom or in life?
both.
Okay, go.
Okay, when I say in life, meaning people that weren't a part of a church setting.
So you've been saved all your life, but go ahead. I'm listening.
All right.
I can't stand
So
you
now,
people that's been saved all your life. I don't like y'all. Go ahead. I'm listening. I'm just joking. I'm just joking.
You know what?
Go ahead,
I'm
Elder.
gonna tell you the truth. I'm gonna get to my point because I know somebody understood what I was saying. My point was this: it has been said that a woman's childbearing was designed to be somewhat effortless,
Yes,
and painless in all sense of the word.
I believe that.
However, when I am looking at this piece of the writ that says it will be multiplied, well, then my mind goes back to, hey, in multiplication, 0 multiplied by 0 is still nothing. So in my mind, I'm thinking, well, it must have had to have started out with some level of pain.
Stop.
Some level of
No. You're let's look at the writ. Look at the writ. I can't let you go there. Watch.
Okay.
Look at the writ. Verse 16. Genesis 3:16. Look at the writ. Unto the woman, he says, I will greatly multiply your sorrow. The next word is and your conception. So that word sorrow right there is not the multiplication of pain. It's the multiplication of your emotions. That's why you have the colon, the semicolon after conception. He says, I'm going to greatly multiply your sorrow and your conception, right? So in the conception, I'm going to cause you to be sorrowful when you bring forth children. That word sorrow there, if you look at the right screen part of your screen, switches to the word etza, which means I'm going to make that painful. So the multiplication was to the emotions and the pain is to the bearing of the child. Notice when a woman is in conception, she is one going through her senses go crazy too. She smells something and gets sick. Her cravings are weird. That's all the multiplication of that. That's the multiplying of the emotions, not the multiplications of your pain. You were supposed to have a painless birth process. He says, in pain, now you're going to bring forth children. Does that make sense, Elder?
Okay, so what I'm getting out of that is...
We lost you if you're talking.
Sorry about that. You already had emotions, so that would have a basis to multiply. You were already going to conceive, so therefore you would conceive greatly.
You will conceive in pain.
In pain.
Right.
So I'm just trying to get a grasp on that multiplication part.
It's the emotions.
Okay.
It's the wearisomeness. That's the emotional state. When you're emotional, you're worried about something, weary about something, right? Either you're too giddy or you're too upset. You're dropping on this high. You're on this high and then you drop to this low. It's connected to the actual emotions. And then he says, in sorrow, you're also going to bring forth children.
I got it. Thank you.
Love you, Elder. All right, who's next?
Even though you don't like me.
I don't like the way you talk, but I love you.
You know what? Y'all wave your praise. Y'all stretch your hands that way in faith.
Father, in the name of our Savior, touch the apostle man. Amen. All right, who's next? Who's on platform? Anybody want to chat about this? Anybody got a question or a thought? Hi there, Miss Leah. How are you today? Welcome to our platform. Hi there, Miss Leah.
Hi, great. I'm great. How are you, sir?
I'm having a wonderful day. I've got people talking bad about me on platform. I don't know why, but Miss Leah, I'm doing good. Thanks for asking. How are you today?
Yeah. No, this is a great teaching. but I understood, and I guess I'll just have to give this example is that, after having children, mothers, I think it's just innate for mothers, to care for the young, right? And so, but I can recall, even after having my children, that it was innate for me to take care of them because they were defenseless. And but I did realize how my desire for my husband at the time was diminishing, actually. And so I like what you kind of brought out. And only if Adam would have said or took ownership.
I like that, Leah. Yes.
Yeah.
I really don't think, Leah, Miss Leah, I really don't think that the woman would have gone through what she's gone through and now you guys are experiencing. And the serpent, y'all really dog that serpent out. I ain't, y'all really do. That serpent is just a beast of the field. He's just like a lamb, just like a sheep, just like a bull. But now he's been trapped up in this thing that we think that the serpent is the devil. The serpent was a beast of the field. We just do too much in Christendom with this stuff. But like you said, I'm really of the persuasion, and I'm going to admit I am running a bit. I run the line of being subjective. I just really believe if Adam would have owned it when Yahweh said what you did, how you know. He said, the woman you gave me. So, okay, you the boss. So I'm going to deal with the woman then. And then she said, the serpent you gave me. Okay, you the next boss. I'm going to deal with the serpent. So he dealt with them that passed the buck. And then the biggest thing, I don't think we understand, Miss Leah, is that Yahweh literally hurt man more than he hurt the woman and the serpent. Because he cursed the earth, who he gave man dominion over. And he basically told the earth, rebel against man.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a wow moment.
Yeah, it's really deep, but I want you, if you don't mind, to address, I'm in the 3rd chapter of Genesis.
Go ahead.
And where he speaks, I will greatly multiply your sorrow and your conception. In pain you shall bring forth children. Your desire shall be for your husband, and he shall rule over you.
Right.
So, but it's almost like that didn't happen because our desire wasn't for our husband. It was more for the child. So maybe you can explain,
Leah, you just
part B.
You just did. No, that's really good. Please, and don't leave, because you're right in the vein. I did not get a chance to get into it because somebody from the country came on here and started talking to me before I could finish my thought. But the country got good people. They got good food out there in the country. And that's my dear beloved Elder Rogers. She gonna have my head, I promise you. But Miss Leah, it's very true. He says that your desire, verse 16, I'll put it right here on the board for everybody to see it on Facebook and YouTube. Unto the woman, he says, I will greatly multiply your sorrow and conception. In sorrow you shall bring forth children, semicolon. And your desire shall be to your husband. The thing I like about this, Leah, before I go further into part B of that, is that he does not say your love.
Yeah.
He does not say your love. He says your desire. Meaning, and that word desire is the word teshuka, which means you're longing for, you're stretching out after, your desire for, right? It doesn't mean what you love. It means what you desire. Now we can love what we desire. We can desire what we love, but we got to be very clear. He says your longing for now will be for your husband. So when you have that child, Miss Leah, do you remember the and I'm just using this again, people are going to think this is subjective and eisegetical, but just put this in context. The Alex Haley story called Roots. Do you remember that scene when in the very beginning they were not slaves and Kunta Kinte was born? And I can never get this image out of my head. I think it's a beautiful, beautiful image that was put there. And I think it runs along with the mindset of Elohim for the unit of a family, where the husband and the wife are there. She has the baby. He cuts the umbilical cord, and the child is instantly put in his hands.
Yeah, that's deep.
That's deep, right? The child is instantly put in his hand because he cuts the umbilical cord. Uh-oh. The umbilical cord. What about the umbilical cord? That's how mom is providing for the child. But
Right.
now you're a different entity now. He cuts the cord. The cord is cut. And the father needs to be the first one there to embrace that. That's why for me, it was a joy to be the first one outside of the doctor to bear my children in arms. Immediately after that, put the baby on my on the baby's mother, you know, my wife at the time, and that's what we did, you know. And but she was you know, epiduraled up and zoned out, you know, because of the pain she went through, right? But I can't get that image out of my head where he held the child up. She then later on, of course, later on, not the same moment. She didn't have the baby and then got up. She wasn't Superwoman. She had that baby. But a couple of days later, they did the dedication to the divine, right? And he stood up. She handed him the baby. She then held his back. Yeah, that part. So she is behind him, her breast on his back, under his shoulder blades, her arms under his, and he is holding the baby in dedication to the divine. That's the scene that I can't ever get out of my head. And whenever I read this writ, before I ever saw Alex Haley, I always had that image for some reason, and I just did not know why. But when it hit me, it just made so much sense.
And so I would say that that would have placed us in alignment with God's word if that would have taken place. And so even as you spoke about how sometimes we have had children and we have not thought it out. We were having kids out of wedlock and things of that sort, right? But it's real interesting because my two of my daughters had gotten married, and they were not with men that actually, you know, serve the Lord. And I'm there at their first, you know, at the birth of the children, of my grandchildren, and I literally take the children after the babies are home, and really lift them up before the Lord, to return them back to God, because because they're not in alignment. I don't think it would ever happen, right? Mm-hmm. And yet it's the male's responsibility or the man's responsibility to actually do that.
Absolutely. And that's where the way we've been nurtured post instructions, we've gotten ourselves in a culture that in the sympathies and with, I don't think we understand how much being subservient to people who use humans as resources, I don't think we understand. And I say this is not a racial card, but I say this because I happen to be an African American in a country called America and have to live through what I lived through. We don't understand how important that dividing of the father from the home was. Now we made Papa a rolling stone. Wherever he laid his hat was his home. And when he died, all he was left was alone, because Papa, where that song was made from, came from the buck system of slavery. The buck was sent to wherever the slave owner had plantations, because the buck was the strong guy. He was the one allowed to go out. He worked, but he went out and he impregnated on the plantations of the master. And that's why Papa was a rolling stone. We don't even understand how deep that goes yet. I don't think we do. We just hear the song. It's cute. You sung it at the jig joint. You sung it at the sock hop. You drank and was at the speakeasy, and it was a good song to dance to. But that thing has some mental implications for me that I think really affect how we have a nurtured culture of dividing the purpose of dad father, seed giver from the home. Because if the child doesn't know where it came from, the child will never reach its potential. That's why when I had my children, I would be literally, and I say this with all my heart, I would be damned. And this is my thought from the beginning. I will be damned if I do not make sure that my sons and my daughters know me, understand me, and really are in relationship with me. And that was just not going to happen. So them knowing who they are now, they have an innate authority and an innate sense of ingenious, or an innate sense of identification, I meant to say, as to who they are. And even in my failed state, they still see me in my success state, and they realize they have that particular value within them. They have those values, those proclivities, those propensities, and those ideals for success within them. And then we learn how to manage them together. And I teach this to my children because I understand that the father, by this sympathetic system of having the child, and the dad ain't there to be with the baby when it's being born. That's another nasty thing I want men to stop doing. Have your butt in that labor room. Hear that pain she went through for your narrative behind. And get there. Hold that child. Having children changed my life. My first son changed my entire life. I was from what I did in the game. And I realized then, having the issues I had as a boy with what I felt should have been a father scenario, it changed my life. I'm like, I'm not letting my son, any of my children, grow up without knowing who they are. Yeah. And they're going to know me. So being there to hold that child when that child came out of the womb, the first set of hands outside of the medical community was mine. I cut the umbilical cord to each. I'm proud of that. I can't tell you how proud I am of that.
Wow. So this is deep because now inside of, they'll allow you to cut the umbilical cord, right? Mm-hmm. But it looked like they, I'm going to say for my youngest daughter, they still laid the baby on her chest, and did not. Yeah.
And there is a philosophy behind that. But when we understand the intention of that, I laid the child on the mother's chest. I did it. Okay. Now back to your passage. I shouldn't have gotten all my testimony in there because now y'all got me. I got me all teary up here, making me mad. Man, oh man, Leah, you can't come up on stage no more. Get me crying and stuff. Listen, Ms. Leah. And your desire shall be to your husband. When you lay that baby on the mother's breast, of course, they're not going to suck pap right then. There's a process, but it's for the purpose of the child knowing that comfort, that heartbeat, that rhythm, right? So when each of my children were born, they heard my voice and they knew my voice. They turned their whole bodies to where my voice was in the operating room. It's still to think about it. I'm still reminiscing over it. I'm looking at it. It's that's an Elohim thing. You can't make that up. And if you've ever experienced that, you are blessed for it. Remember it. Keep it in your head. If you've not experienced that, I'm so sorry for you. I mean that. That's not braggadocious. That's just something every man needs to experience. Seeing a baby without sight, hear his voice and turn to him. That would mean you got relationship with the mother. Mm-hmm. And that would mean also that you are not an argumentative element with the mother, fighting and fussing. And the only reason you know that sound vibrating off of that womb is because mom is in stress and in traction while she's talking to you. There's a relationship between the two, and that child turns to me. There was another video that's on YouTube. There's this guy. He's a comedian. He's a church comedian, and he videotaped his experience with his daughter and how she came out the womb and she was crying. And when she heard his voice, because he's had a relationship while she was in the womb, I would read to my children in the womb. I would talk to my children in the womb. But she heard his voice and she was crying, and mom was there, but they had him in his arms and they put her down on the bed, the warming table. And he went over to the warming table, and it was his voice that you could see her literally turn from a frown, eyes closed, and she would then begin to smile and she'd stop fidgeting. And he's like, "It's okay, I'm here." That's a literal.
I've never seen that.
Yeah, you should YouTube that if I can find it. It's a real. Anybody seen that? Anybody?
I've seen it.
Yeah.
Yes, I've seen it.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that.
Yes, I've seen it.
Because I experienced that with each of my children. So to this day, watch this. Whenever the mom has a problem with the son, with the daughter, with the son, you know whose voice that calms those children immediately? I don't care how grown they are. It's mine. Because women, you need to understand this. Your children are actually your husband or your father of that child 2.0. Thank God they're dressed in the pulchritude and the beauty of you. Because if they look like him, I'm sure it's not going to be a good thing. But thank God they look like you, right? But they listen to him. They're designed to listen to his voice.
Right.
That's why when that child turns 11, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13 years old, they not feeling you, mom. Though you love them, you nurture them, you let them suck on your pap and you keep them in your breast. You held them under your arms, you feed them, you did this, you were there, you wiped the nose. And if dad was or was not involved, you did your job. What you as a mother do and the father are to do are to work as a team. And the order of the house comes from the father being one seeking the father and getting instructions from the father, and then the mother and the father working together and putting ourselves in this space so that we can literally know where we're headed. That child feels all of that. And whenever dad speaks, that child's voice, that child's head turns up, its eyes turns up. To this day, if they say, I'm telling your dad, all my children tighten up to this day, and they grow, and they're grown. My wife, my father-in-law, at the time, before he passed away, my father-in-law at the time, he's a great man. He's got 9 children, and all of them were grown. But whenever they came together for the celebration of these holidays and stuff like that, and they would come together, if he spoke up, every grown military man would turn and listen to him and they would shut up. I loved that. It wasn't that he abused them. It was that he had a relationship with them. And this is where we have to realize you have to have a wife who is conducive. You have to have a depository. Please, that's not a demeaning word. You have to have an incubator who understands what you're promoting and what you're producing. And they have to be lockstep. They have to be in sync. Now, when I say incubator, it's not a demeaning statement. It's just, in an analogy for the scenario we're talking about. So when she and the father are on the same page, the child understands this is dad. And the child understands from the father, that's your mother. I don't think we're nurturing that right there. Like you said, we understand how desire sort of kind of dwindles after a while. And one of the things we do as a piece we should consider is once the child is born, we leave it in the care of the mother, and the father sits back acting like he's a bull in a china shop in some cases. And then some are like, they just don't bother. They just don't even care. You raise a child, you do that. I can't do that. No, that's not humanity the way it was designed. That's a selfish individual with selfish motives. And I wonder, from being a counselor as I am, how many were raised just thinking a woman's supposed to bear my children. Leah, thank you for coming up. Did you have anything else you wanted to share?
No, this is just really good. Did you really get in depth in regards to the submission? I'm just really interested in regards to the submission part of it. Because I know that many times that we as women have saw that to be, I'm going to say for me, because it may not be true for the women that are in the room. But for me, when I first looked at submission, it was like, well, I'm not going to submit to that person, especially if he hadn't submitted to God, right? but the Lord began to show me otherwise concerning submission. So I don't know if you really kind of got into depth concerning that. But
did you catch part 1?
No, so I'll need to go back and do that.
Let me ask the moderators. Moderators, is part 1 on Facebook or is it on Clubhouse too?
It's on both, sir.
Okay, so get part 1 to this subject matter. That's the part that deals with the woman submitting. And I go all the way back to the creation of man, and the separation of the woman. And then what submission looks like according to Ephesians. Because in Ephesians, when he says submit, and I'll say this for the sake of you because you've added a value to this platform, is that we've misunderstood submission within Christendom. And that's because of a Greek render and then a Christian construct that we operate the Bible out of. But when you understand what was intended by the author, who he was speaking to, you will realize that submitting means submitting yourselves one to the other. So when a man submits to the wife, it's not she's ruling him and usurping authority over him. No, Yahweh has a provision for that right here in this passage. He says, woman, though you can do everything a man can do, it's my desire that you stay in the order I created you. That's what he says. She don't have to obey that. The second part about submission that we have a confusion on is that when man submits to a woman, he is submitting the instructions he got from the Father, which had he done that, Leah, man, you and I would not be in the predicament we're in right now. Because when he got the instructions from the Father, don't eat the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, immediately after that, Yahweh pulled womb out of man, and man was supposed to tell the womb man that instruction. He didn't. If he would have submitted to her then, the information, she would have known how to defend against this intruder to their relationship. Does that make sense, Miss Leah?
Yeah, it makes sense. It's really deep.
So it is deep. So when we go into Ephesians now, you have to understand that the man has to go before the Father. And if the woman is wise, she will make sure that man gets before the Father and be there with him while he's before the Father and study the writ together and learn what's being said and what he's hearing, how he's hearing it, and get the interpretation. And then he can write the vision on the wall, i.e. submit the vision to the resource, which is the womb man. When vision meets resource, resource brings and provides for vision. Yeah, that's deep.
Yeah.
And so once for the sake of submission, once he submits the vision, she now is triggered to become a resource. It just comes out of her. She don't even know where it comes from. When a woman hears vision, I don't care if it's from the job or from the pastor, I hope it comes from her husband. Women just kick in the gear. Mm-hmm. It's the way you're built like that. It's true. And here's the catch. Men talk about we don't submit to a woman, right? But here's the thing. If you're a quarterback, if you're a point guard, if you are a pitcher on a baseball team, if you're playing cricket, you're playing football, you're playing American football, whatever it is, you will always, watch this, submit your brawn to a coach who has a plan to win a game. The coach tells you, you got to run through this particular pocket. You got to hit the ball this direction. You got to do a pick here. So we're willing to take instructions from a plan giver who is not a female. But when it comes to marriage, and if all things are as the word says, what's true in the natural is first true in the spiritual, and the marriage was the first thing before there was ever a sport, then that means that if I submit my talent to my woman, i.e. the vision, she then comes up with a plan. I guess she becomes my coach.
Wow.
Ain't nobody else gonna talk to me and you, Leah. I think we by ourselves on this. Leah, we by ourselves on this platform. Ain't nobody here. So we got a problem with our coach being a woman. Oh, that's why y'all don't want women preaching to y'all. Oh, let me give you a cue. When Messiah came up from the grave, the very first person he saw coming up from the grave was a woman. Guess what he did? He said, go tell them I'll be back. That's called preaching. That's called an instruction. Y'all miss me with that women can't preach and I can't hear from a woman and I don't submit to no woman. Y'all, you don't submit as if you lay down and let her usurp authority. That's not it. But when she has a plan that you've agreed to because you gave her the vision triggers the resource. It triggers her brain to come up with different ways to get stuff done. Just like when you bring groceries home. You bring that steak home, you bring that chicken home, you bring that turkey home. She can cook it 18 different ways. And guess what she does? She enforces your behind to sit down at the head of the table and eat what I cooked. We so dumb. Go wash your hands. She told you to go wash your hands. Did you go wash your hands? Yes, because she got dinner on the table. You brought the food home. Okay, fine. But she cooked it 18 different ways. When you bring vision, y'all not going to act like I'm not talking to y'all. When you bring vision to resource, there's a response of creativity in the atmosphere.
Yeah.
And the planner has to give the instructions. Well, the husband's the head. Yes, he's the head. She makes him the head. Ooh.
That's all in order.
Leah, thank you so much for coming on platform.
Thank you.
Hope you tune in.
It's such a good, I'm going to go back and listen to your part one, but thank you very much for just allowing me to share. Blessings to you. God bless everyone.
I hope you'll hit that. I hope you'll hit that green clubhouse thing at the top and join us. It'll be a joy to have you with us as many times as you can. It'll be my absolute joy to have you. All right.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Who's next? What we got on the platform? I got a question on Facebook. I want to get to it. I hope she hasn't left yet. Miss Francis, are you still there? Eula Francis on Facebook has a statement and a question. I hope she's still here. Eula, let me know you're here. Type in if you're on platform or if you're on YouTube or Facebook, whichever one you're on, just type in. Let me know you're still here, please. I know there's a delay, so I got to wait a second or two and waste some time here. Hey, there she go. That was good. Fast. Thank you. So back to my question. Wait, man, she trying to boss me? Like, back to my question. Eula, what's going on? What'd I do? No, I'm just teasing you. She said, back to my question, Apostle, about the earth rebelling against man. I didn't see the question initially. Okay, let me just read it from here. Back to my question, Apostle, about the earth rebelling against man. Please reconcile that with man being made from the earth. Beautiful question. So watch this. Let's go to Genesis chapter number 1. All right, verse number, I'm going to put it on the screen so you guys can see it together with me. All right, so in this passage, we have in Bereshit chapter number 1, verse number, let's go down to verse 20. 23. Go to verse 23. And the evening and the morning were the 5th day. And Elohim said that the earth bring forth the creature, cattle, creeping thing after its kind. Verse 25, Elohim made the beast of the earth and put it on the top of the screen. Verse 25, Elohim made the beast of the earth after its kind, the cattle after its kind, the creeping thing after its kind. And Elohim saw that it was good. Verse 26 says, he said, let us make man in our image after our likeness and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the fowl of the air, over the cattle, over all the creeping things creep on the earth. And verse 27 says, so Elohim created man in his own image. In the image of Elohim created he him, male and female created he them. Elohim blessed them and said unto them, be fruitful, multiply, replenish the earth, subdue it, and have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the fowl of the air, over everything that lived upon the earth. And he's telling man what he made. Now, for the statement, Miss Francis, that Elohim created humanity from the Adoma. That's how man, the human man, there's a word I like to play with too. You asked it during part 1. I didn't see it, Francis. I'm so sorry. I don't think I did. Anywho, there is a word I like to deal with, and I'm going to type it into Facebook because there's a phonetic here that I talked with a rabbi about, and when he said it to me, I was like, oh, that's deep. All right. I'll put it up there. Everybody should see that now on Facebook. It's the word H-E-W-N, human. Because Elohim literally made human from the earth, the Adoma. So you have in the Hebrew, you have a word called eretz. That word eretz is what the third rock from the sun is. That's the earth, right? But in the earth, there's water. In the eretz, there's water. In the eretz, there is the soil. But this is known also as the soil is known as, another word I'm gonna put up here, as the Adoma. Okay, So when Yahweh made the man, the human, he hewn man from the Adoma. That's how man got its name, Adam. Okay, so man was made from the Adoma, and everything that comes out of the Adoma, man has dominion over. Man does not have dominion over the Eretz, contrary to what Catholicism and the construct of Christianity that you and I now are basically a part of. Though you're not Catholic Christendom any longer, you are a protester of Catholic Christendom because of a thing back with Martin Luther, but you are still Protestant Christian, okay? And Christianity was created by the Roman Catholic Church. No, it was not. Jesus Christ is Christianity. He is not. His name is not Christos. His name is Mashiach. Christos is a define. It is a translation. It is a transliteration for that. And you got to understand that, because Christian, they were named that by Romans. And that was their definition for the word Mashiach, which limited what Mashiach meant. That's why when you say Christ, you say the anointed one of his anointing. But when you say Mashiach, you include the anointed one of his anointing, along with 20 other attributes that belong to Mashiach that we are left out on because we only talk about Christ, Christos, the English translation. Go back to the actual origin. Go back to the etymology. Now, in that, we find that Yahweh made humanity from the Adoma. Mankind does not have dominion over the Eretz. You think that we got dominion over the whole world. No, if you read the passage, he tells you in verse number, and put the screen back up and put the passage back up. He tells you in verse number 28, he blessed mankind, told them to multiply, have dominion over the fish of the sea, over the fowl of the air. Both of those elements came from the waters. They were made, fish and fowl, were made in day 5. That was the day the waters, which is a completely different dominion, were put into play. He says, but I'm going to take from the waters the fowl of the air. They're going to populate on the Adoma, and I'm going to let the fish of the sea be something you can get to as low-hanging fruit from the waters, right? And then he says, you're going to have also, verse 28, you're going to have over every living thing that moves upon the earth. That's the Adoma, all right? So he says, I'm giving you the herbs. I'm giving you everything which is upon the face of the earth. That's the Adoma. Every tree, every fruit that yields seed, everything that is for meat, to the beast of the field, the fowl of the air that I just transferred over to you guys from the waters, and everything that creeps on the earth, wherein there is life on the Adoma. I have given every green herb for meat. Okay. This is what Yahweh has given them. He said, verse 31, he said that he saw everything, that everything he had made, and behold, it was all good. The evening and the morning were the day number 6. Now, I want us to make sure we're clear on this, because when Yahweh puts humanity in play, he makes human from the Adoma. When he gives man dominion, chapter 2 of Bereshit, he sits him down in the 7th day, which we're about to come up on at about 11, in just a few hours. Actually, the Sabbath's about to kick in. For some of you, those of you who are in UK, the Sabbath is already here. Those of you in Uganda and Ghana, and those of you who are in the other areas, the Sabbath has already kicked in. With all of that. So you got to understand that Sabbath is a day that Yahweh uses for humanity to be humanity as designed. But we keep skipping Sabbath like it's not important. That's how you know what to do in the earth that you were made to operate in. So when we say, great question, Francis, too, when we say that Elohim cursed the earth for man's sake, that's because the earth was made, and Yahweh said, when the earth was made, the waters were separated with a dominion, the Adoma was given a dominion, and then he says, I don't have a manager to manage the Adoma. So he made a man to give humanity the dominion in the way he has dominion. And so when he made man from the Adoma, which is why his name is Adam, now he is in charge. The seventh day, Yahweh sits him down in the Adoma and names everything that came from the Adoma. That's Adam's dominion now. It now recognizes his voice. That's why he had to speak it. I tell y'all every day, you live in a voice-activated kingdom. So once man and Adoma are cool before the fall, everything when man walked through, he's the king. Everything recognizes him. But when he erred and did not keep the word of Elohim and then passed the blame and then saw himself in a different light and then didn't own up to his sin, Adam never owned up to his sin. He never owned up to it. So Yahweh said, "Are you going to pass the buck on her?" Okay, I'm gonna show you something. So he and again he takes and he gives her sorrows emotionally and for conception and bringing forth children. Then she passes the buck onto the serpent. He causes the serpent to no longer walk upright and erect, but now is a coil slithering across the grounds. That's how you got the serpent as a snake. Now, he does not, the person who committed the sin is the man, not the woman. I don't care what anybody tells you. The woman did not commit the sin. Man did not communicate to the woman what the instruction was, while she was clearly not totally understanding of the instruction about the fruit of the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. He was supposed to step in right there and say, "Hey, babe, no, we can touch it because we got to till it, but we can't eat it." So that ends that. So serpent, go about your way. Evil, go about your way. He doesn't do that. He watches her. He sits right there with her on her shoulder while the serpent is having a conversation with his woman. He don't step in front, put her behind him and say, "Hey, serpent, you want to talk? Talk to me." He listens to a conversation between the serpent and his wife and then does not intercede, does not interject, does not submit the right information to put that whole issue to rest. All he had to do was speak up. Instead, he watches her eat it because now he's intrigued by the salesmanship of the serpent and or being used by evil to tell him, there's something more to this. You'd be like God if you did this. Look at it, smell it, touch it. We can do that. We can smell it. We can touch it. We are the tillers of the ground. We just can't eat it. And rather than making that the clear point, the absolute point, he doesn't. He lets her eat it and then looks at her and gives her the sobriety check. You know how the police get you when they think you drunk driving, like, "Come on, walk this line." He looking at her like, "Baby, you okay? How many fingers I got?" "Was it good?" "Oh, it's good, babe. Here, try it." "You good? Let me see you again. Turn your head to the right. You okay? Stand on one foot." "Okay." And then he tries it.
Really?
If you think about it, that's the VWJ translation. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it. So, at the end of the day, nothing happens when she eats the fruit. Nothing happens when she eats the fruit. She's not the sin. He did. His job is to submit the will of the Father to his woman. And he doesn't submit. And then y'all talking about the woman came home and made him sin. No, she ain't come home. She didn't hear the serpent at some kiosk in the mall and then come back to him while he was in his man cave watching the Cowboys win on Thanksgiving Day like my boys did. Hey, woo, woo. I'm not impressed though. But anyway, so she's not at the mall and then comes home. He's right there with her. The passage says in chapter 3, she gave to him who was right there with her, and he ate it. And then all hell broke loose. Now their eyes are open to a whole new element of evil. Now he sees her naked and himself naked. Now suddenly, after however long they've been naked in the garden, it's a problem. Shouldn't have been that. His job was to submit the word of Elohim to his wife in that moment. Even before then, had he done it, they wouldn't have had the issue. But I get why it didn't happen earlier. There's all new stuff. But he should have been able to, he should have submitted at the time he's watching this conversation happen. Does that make sense? So now, Francis, the question again was, I lost it. I lost the question. I lost my question. Reconcile the man being made from the, reconcile that with man being made from the earth. Here's why. See, when Yahweh gave man dominion, if you notice on your palms, I talk with a lot of rabbis and they chat about this difference in skin, sinew. The palms and the feet, the soles of your feet, are two separate types of skin, as opposed to the skin that's, you know, more colored. This is more pink and it's got the fingerprinting. It's got these vibrations, it's got these lines in it. There's a reason for that. Okay. And if this is like a communicating element. So man in the earth, when he's walking, it is believed by myself and several rabbis that as man would walk from the garden onto the undeveloped parts of the Adoma, the garden would extend itself. So when Yahweh cursed the ground, he basically told the Adam from the Adoma, don't communicate with man that way anymore. That's why he put the stipulation and says, now you're going to eat from the ground by the sweat of your brow and the works of your hands. Francis, does that help? I don't see anybody making no comments. I'm by myself on these platforms. Yeah, it's a wow moment, right? Is that a good wow or is that a wow like, you're crazy? Wow, dude, you need help. Is that, which one is it, Francis? I'm just messing around. Are you guys learning? Clubhouse ain't saying nothing. Nobody's talking. I just got to, I don't understand it. What's going on?
Doing good, sir. Learning. We're learning.
So that's where we are with that. All right. Shannon Henderson, is she still here with us? Shannon Henderson, are you still on? Shannon made a statement in the chat. She said, man or woman don't have to submit, but a wife should submit to her husband. And there is a time for a husband to submit to the wife. Okay, good. Good, Shannon. All right, so I see no more chat questions. All right, and I see no more questions on Facebook. You know what, Charmaine, you funny. Charmaine says, we listen to Frank. I did ask to be Frank Friday. Okay, Friday, Frank. Okay, cool. That was good, Charmaine. That was funny. Okay, who's next? What's my cue?
Prophet Leslie.
Prophet Leslie. Prophet Leslie. She not there. All right, who's next?
I am.
Okay, come on. What you got?
In a quiet place. Sorry.
Okay.
Postpartum. You were talking about the women and what they would go through because of the decisions that was made. Would postpartum be a part of that?
You could put that there easily. I think also that's got a lot to do with diet and everything else as well.
Emotions and stuff.
Yeah, that's all emotions. That's all a part of the. That's all a part of the greatly multiplying of the two different types of versions of sorrow. Yes, I completely 100% agree. Good question, Prophet. All right, who's next?
Janet.
Who's next on cue?
No one, sir.
I heard. Was that Janet? I just heard.
Correct, sir.
Hi, Miss Janet. What you got?
Shalom.
Shalom alaikum.
You just mixed something for me that was an issue for me when I had my daughter, my last daughter.
Okay.
And for me, the desire for my husband and how I felt heightened. And I felt like it was not reciprocated in a lot of ways. And I think because they have that old construct, oh, you're already tied up with the baby. I made time for the child. The child was nurtured, loved, and taken care of, fed, and always, well done. But then I always got that out the way, got that done so that I can then turn and make sure you, the husband, was not neglected or left out. And my desires, every time I would look at him or the child, I would be in a whole other space, like in a third heaven, because I was just in such a heightened state at all time, and the love, the desire was always there. So at one point I was made to feel uncomfortable about that and about being in that space. And now that you break it down, it made me, that actually brought me to tears. I said, okay, so there was nothing wrong with me. I wasn't just one of those people that just overwhelmingly in this position. No, it makes a lot of sense to me. But that took hold of me today. Thank you.
No, Yahweh be praised. I'm glad that was an aid to you too, because we don't realize that people make a big mistake. Miss Leah, who was up here with us earlier, and I'm not sure if she's still on platform or not, but if she is, please feel free to come off mic. We were talking about, she had mentioned the issue with the desire, just like Jeanette is making that reference as well with the desire. I don't think that the church, Christian church, understands that you don't marry for love.
That part is missing. That's really missing. I can even, Apostle, I can even attest to the vision and the resource, because my husband is a contractor back at that time. If he even had a thought when he was starting the company, and I was the one that came up with the ideas, and I said, the minute he said something, I said, oh, okay, we can do this, and this is what you can add. And as you teach every time about the vision and the resource, it clicks in my mind how I always came up with these things and how it was second nature to me. And for me, I always wanted to build you and make sure that it's something that's going to be sustainable. It's something that's going to be powerful enough to keep going. So, I mean, every bit of this, every time I hear it, the little nuances actually made sense to me. And I always wondered if I was being bossy. I thought I knew too much. At one point, I was led to believe that I must know it all. And it wasn't about that. It was what I could add. And I thought it had added value and it made sense. And eventually, things like that make you step back and shut down.
So you were saying before you understood this teaching right now, you were actually, do you believe you were living in that capacity or that vein? All right. Okay. So what you're right. Yes. Okay. So you would do it because it's natural. It's an innate thing. And I think that every woman on this platform can say that. And I think that most men don't realize that it is a very important thing why a woman is asking for that man to talk to them. They're not being nosy. They're not being a nag. Thank you, Janet. They're not being nosy. They're not being a nag, but they're asking to talk because it's innate within them in a partnership to do what they've been really built to do. And because we've been nurtured to think that they are the trophy wife, they are to be treated as a weaker vessel. We don't read that rightly either in Peter, because Peter's not saying treat them because they're the weaker vessel. He says treat them gently. And for men who are bulls in a china shop, treat them like they are a weaker vessel. Not one woman is weaker than a man, mentally or physically, unless she conditions herself to be weakened or is cultured and nurtured in an environment that says you're just going to be a timid damsel in distress, and you need a man to get out. And if you train a child to do that, that's what a child thinks. But if you take a child and you train them that they not one have the responsibility to defend themselves, two have the responsibility to support themselves, three has the responsibility to be themselves, they're not going to be a weak-minded person. Contrary to many generations that we've had, where we have since the medieval times sort of kind of manufactured this idea that the woman is weaker than the man. She is not. She is the better, she is the new and the improved version of the first human in all of his brawn and all of his strength. You don't believe me that a woman can do anything a man can do? Talk to me about our athletes we got today. Women can lift and bodybuild just about as much as a man can. At least enough that they can supply, they can provide for themselves, not just provide for themselves, but they can also support themselves and hold their own in a fight. Some of the greatest warriors you will ever know about that you don't know about in your Bible were women. Go read the Tanakh. Just go read. I'm not going to take, don't ask me to take you. Go read it. Just Google it. So when we get past this narrative we've nurtured into a culture that pretty much resides within Christendom, that the woman is just some weak vessel, you are a absolute unlearned. I was going to use another word. You are an unlearned individual. You are you are unlearned. That's all I'm going to say, because people are ignorant because they're unlearned, and people are ignorant because they learn and they don't want to change. But I'm going to say unlearned because that keeps the door open for you to choose which ignorant you are. I'm being nice to you.
In addition, Apostle, this is Janet again. When you find that,
go ahead.
No, I was going to say, in addition, when things were not going right or feeling right, or things are not jiving as they were, and you brought up a topic and said, we need to talk, something is off or things are off, then you were also labeled as emotional.
Well, that's all a part of the whole process. That's everything involved. And because we're unlearned how Elohim did things, women have gotten, when you're emotional, you're nagging. When you're asking questions which require you to feel a part of the relationship, because you're probably, in most cases as a woman, more a part of your job when they have the board meetings, when they have the project meetings, when they have the weekly, trajectory meetings with you, you feel more connected to that than you do at your home, because the man is the head of the house. And then when he gives you his plans, he's like, well, I got this. Don't worry about it. Talk to me. I'm here to help.
Wow. Well said.
And so you will end up becoming a nag. And if you're like, well, you told me you're going to do this and you're doing this, when did you make that switch? Did you make a unilateral move? I thought we were a team. We're a partnership. I'm here with you. Because what you do out there, Adam, affects me over here.
Oh, yes.
Okay, Adam, so if you over there, doing, let me know what it is so I don't end up talking to this serpent again, bro.
That's so
I don't end up getting my body all twisted up and messed up. And see, we don't really like that conversation. Not in Christendom. It's proof by the way that the whole, all of my viewership just dropped off. It's cool, but you can't unread that. And I guarantee you will never get around it. The woman is not the weaker vessel. He said, treat her as if she were the weaker vessel. That's why Paul in Ephesians had to tell the wife, submit to your husbands. You know why? Because the wife at this point don't think she need to. Especially with what they keep falling victim to because of the decisions these knuckleheads that's supposed to be over them keep making. And they got to clean the mess up. So then he tells Paul, listen, then Paul tells them, He says, husbands, you have to love your wives. You have to love her like you love yourself. So he helps them understand how submittance is. You can't just run roughshod over her and treat her like she is under your foot and there as a tool for your disposal. She's a tool, a resource for your existence. Wives, I know he gets on your nerves. I know you can do anything that he can do and do it better, but I'm asking you to submit. Y'all thought it was a command. And the Christian church took it and ran with it as if we're supposed to browbeat our women into submission. I don't want a woman who submits to me just because. I need her to want to submit her resources to me because she values the fact that my vision makes sense. Now she never leaves me and I never leave her. We work together. That's where love is built. You don't marry for love. Elohim is love. If you marry for love, you marry because you're trying to find that person you can submit your vision to, and she's willing to submit her resource to once the vision's submitted, and then we can build together and love what we built that gives us security, provisions, and a family, and a legacy, and a heritage. I think I talked too long again today. We 3 hours on this one too. Man, I thought it was going to be less time. Y'all all right over there?
Yeah, we good.
That's good.
So when Miss Leah was talking about this issue of, the desire, and like Jeanette is talking about this desire, you can feel where the desire sort of kind of wanes. Yahweh is like, my charge to you, woman, is even though you could do what you want to do, I'm asking you, stay committed. More importantly, I'm asking you, watch this. Let's go back to Genesis chapter number 3:16. Genesis 3:16. Put this on the board for y'all that are watching. Genesis 3:16. For those of you who are still watching and have not left us. Genesis 3:16, 18. 16. That's where I want to be. He says, part B. Genesis 3:16, part B. He says, in sorrow, pain shall you bring forth children. We clear on that. Your desire, not your love. Did y'all ever consider the fact that if you have a child in plan and in order and in agreement, that you will both love the child, and every time you see that child, and that child is with the two of you in that parenthood, working productively, working in the right way, you will love the person who had that child you love?
Yep.
And you will want to do that again with that person. If I'm building something successful, or I build something with a partner and it is successful, it's built well, there's no arguing, and our arguments are not antagonistic. Our arguments are theory, weighing against each other and then saying, okay, that theory wins out, let's do that. And you're doing that as a team. You love working with that person because what you build is quality. And you don't want to build with nobody else. See, that's where your love comes in at. When you look back at what you built and you're able to say, yeah, I like that. That's really cool. I love working with this person. Now you start seeing this person in those beautiful lights. And now you realize, I don't want to be without this person. I don't want to build with anybody but this person. See, that's where love comes in at. And we are so caught up, oh, marry for love. No. You don't marry for love. You marry for life. Woo! My God in Zion.
That's deep. That's good.
So when we talk about this verse number 16, your desire shall be to your husband. And I'm telling you, it is my will that he rules. That word rule right there in 16, look at it in the Hebrew. It is the Hebrew word for H4910 is the word mashal. That word is, I want him to be the governor. Matter of fact, woman, when I pulled you out of the human, it was to help the project of the human go forward. So I'm not changing the antenna, which is the masculine of the human. I'm still sending message down through the antenna, and the antenna now needs to make sure he communicates, because the words I give are seeds. He needs to plant those seeds within the womb so that they can germinate and therefore produce what I'm expecting. This is where we miss it within Christendom. But he says in this word mashal, it is a primitive root word meaning to rule, have or make to have dominion, be governor, reign, bear, cause to have, rule, ruling, or make them ruler, give them power. I'm asking you, woman. This is really what Yahweh is saying. He is saying, unto you, woman, I will greatly multiply your sorrows and your conceptions. In sorrow, you're going to bring forth children. Your desire needs to return to your husband once you've had that child. And I need you to let that man rule over you, because that's my will. That's my will for why I made y'all. And I know now what you have knowledge of good and evil, you can think differently. Did anybody ever consider that this was a conversation that Yahweh was having with her as to how he wants things to work? The body part, that's going to happen. But your desire will be back to your husband. Because many of us don't have a desire back to our husbands. I'm not no woman, I'm just saying, general. You know, and many of us don't have a desire to let someone rule over us, even though there is a process that is in place and can be run as a narrative or an analogy or a metaphor for even the church of Elohim's structure and design, which is why Paul wrote in Ephesians that the man is head of the woman, and Messiah is the head of the man, and Elohim's the head of Messiah. Or Messiah is the head of the church, right? And Elohim's the head of Messiah. That structure, what's true in the natural is first true in the spiritual. It's Yahweh's desire. But how many of y'all go to church and don't let your pastor rule over you? Oh, that hit low, didn't it? I'm so wrong. Okay, to all the people who just met me, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I think the word of Elohim is very funny. I think it's the greatest script writing for comedy on the planet. And I mean in a good way, because when you have to laugh at your own truth, it's like, ugh, that hurts, but it's funny because I did it. Yeah, let me get in alignment with what's supposed to be done. All right. Daphne, did I answer your question? I didn't see it.
Yes, sir, you did.
Okay, I don't.
About the Godhead, and you just mentioned it.
Okay, yeah, there you go. Right. Good point. Gotcha. All right, everybody. So we're going to make sure we get everything done. Hey, Miss Leah, you made it back up. I thought you were down out of here.
Yeah, could I just something, because you just really hit chords when you are speaking. And I think it was Jeanette in regards to some things she was saying, that I think it is innate in women to be that resource, right? Mm-hmm. And so, but when men don't understand their role, then they won't allow, or they, because feel bad, or won't allow us to really step into the role to actually assist them. And when they buck against it.
One mic, please. Yes, that's very true. Go ahead.
Yeah. And it's like, wow, all I'm trying to do is to help to make this look better. So what I've learned, I was married for 23 years, and I'm not going to get into all of that, but I'm divorced now. And so what I've learned on my journey, because 10 years of that marriage was without Christ, and the last 13 was with Christ.
Big difference.
So what I began to learn is the order that God had actually set up, right? And so, my thing was that, God, I want to step into what you've called me to be as a wife, because I didn't know, I didn't understand what my position or my role was.
Mm-hmm.
And but I was married to someone that was not in Christ. And therefore there was that resistance, to even allow me to step into that place in that space.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but I do believe it's innate in women. We are administrators, many of us by nature.
Mm-hmm.
And so teachers, the whole works, and those things just automatically just come out of us.
Yeah, it's literally you're wired for that. If you take it even to scripture, Lady Leslie, I'm sorry, Lady Leah, Miss Leah, if you take it to the writ, he tells you why he laid man down. He says, I'm going to make, let's go to chapter Genesis. I'm going to put this up on the board for those of you that are watching still. And I'm sure people are getting tired of us going back and forth in the Bible. That would be a problem in general. I love the Bible. That's the only thing I got for you. I don't have man's commentary. I only got the writ for you. But look at what he says. He says in verse number 18, chapter 2, Bereshit 2:18. Bereshit is Hebrew for Genesis, right? So look at what he says in verse 18. Yahweh said, it is not good that man be all one. Your Bible says alone, but that phrase is actually all one, right? I will make man a helpmeet for him. Now that word meet is the word for aid. It's the word izir, right? And the word azir comes from another root word, which is known as azar, means, listen, y'all ready for this? Y'all ready? Are you ready? Listen,
Yep.
The word izir comes from the word ozir, which means to surround, to protect or aid, to help or succor. But we don't do the definitions of the words we're reading because we've been preached at so long as to what someone else thinks it's supposed to mean. I said that with my whole heart. Please come check me about it. So the word izir comes from a root word ozir, and in the ideal of ozir is to surround. So Yahweh says, I'm going to make him a surrounding, succoring, helping, aiding to fulfill the goal. So when we say the word help me, what we're really saying is Yahweh gave humanity a helper to meet the goal Elohim gave humanity. Not a slave. Not a barefoot in the kitchen in the bedroom. A helpmeet, a partner, one who surrounds and supports. We treat them ill because we don't know our role. We don't know that the best thing you got is the song we love to sing when we drunk. Oh, you're the best thing that ever happened to me. Act like it, because that's what she is. When you really find one you can submit your vision to, you must understand you don't get married because she got nice hips. You don't get married because she got nice lips. Ladies, you don't get married because he got nice pecs and biceps. You get married because of what's in that man's head and what he's trying to be led by. Men, you get married because of what's in her ability, how she receives your words, if you pay attention to the very beginning stages of any relationship, the woman is built to listen. She talk a whole lot. You know why she talk a whole lot? Because ain't nobody talking to her right. She's trying to find the conversation she wants. Ooh, that's so good, Jones. Ooh, that's so good. That's so good. Listen, she's not getting the conversation she needs to keep her, so then she keeps talking. and talking. And then she gets with the other chicks. They talking, they chatting, and they're waiting for. But when a woman hears a word, she will be completely quiet because she's processing wisdom. When wisdom speaks, who is it? Spencer here? Pastor Spencer here?
Yes, sir.
What happens?
When wisdom speaks, truth listens.
Well, vice versa. When truth speaks.
That's right. When truth speaks, wisdom listens.
Yeah, I set you up. That's my bad. My bad. I let you fall. My bad. My bad. So when truth speaks, wisdom listens. That's why the ruby, this Proverbs 31 woman, is wise. She listens to truth, even if she's got to make her own. So when a man who is truthful about his intentions and trying to move in the directions he should move in, she can hear his truth, and she will automatically, for some strange reason, all of her resources coagulate around that vision. Just like Miss Jeanette said, if I hear it, I'm gonna bring it to pass. That, just like Lady Leah said, when I hear it, I'm just built that way. I don't even know why I respond that way. Well, here's why you respond that way, everybody. It's in the Bible. It's in the Torah. It's right here. I'm going to make him a helpmeet. That's why woman exists. And man does not recognize that. I wouldn't have a problem with man not recognizing it if Elohim made the body for the woman, the body for the feminine, from another mountain or another parcel of dirt that he did not make man from. But because Yahweh took the pulchritude of the first man and stretched it to be the pulchritude for the female, there's no way men should misconstrue that she is not your competition because she was made from another parcel of land. She's not made from another parcel of land. So she's not the competitor for the job Yahweh gave when he said, I don't have a man to till the ground. If he made another body from a different parcel of dirt, then I could see the woman and the man, the feminine and the masculine being competition. But he made the woman's body from the first human he made. That is his complement. That is his companion, not his competition. I can't get that message across to everybody because we stuck that men should put their foot and their thumb on the neck and the backs of the woman. Are y'all all right with me? Y'all gonna stop talking to me, or we good? Y'all just
Powerful. We're good.
And brothers, the moment we recognize I need you, I'm at a point where like I got all this vision in my head and I can't bring a lot of this stuff to fruition. I need resources to do this. I need those who are tapped into something. And Yahweh does not put people in your life for just any dumb reason. Women are wired to bring vision to fruition. Men are wired to hear from Elohim. Women hear too. But that's the way the Creator made it. I hate to sound like Orange Juice Jones, but we just a squirrel in this world trying to get acorns. This is Yah's world. He made it. We are squirrels. We are bears. We are lions. We are humans in his world. He made for us to do his will, but we don't sit with him on Sabbath. We don't sit with him as a couple in his word to learn. What is it that the Father is saying? The two have to be together for the purpose of building a life. The life they build determines the love they have. Okay. My cue over. Miss Leah, thanks for adding value. Miss Janet, thanks for adding value. Elder Rogers, thanks for adding value. Daphne, thanks for adding value. But do y'all understand what it means? Should a man submit to a woman who is not Elohim led? What y'all think?
I think he should if he's hearing truth.
Well, the question is, should a man submit to a woman who is not Elohim led? Whether he's hearing truth or not. Because if she's not under an Elohim style and construct of relationship, she's not an incubator. Even though she's wired to do it, we got thievery on both ends. Men will use a woman because she'll do, and they'll use her up because she'll do, has no intention of building anything with her being a partnership. It's going to be about him. Then when he gets what he wants, he dumps her. Women do the same thing. I promise you they do. I got this little era going on now where women are around here don't want to have a husband, but they're looking for people who are brilliant men, and then they will set the man up to have a baby with them so that they can have a brilliant child. Because the world that we live in right now says that the residential parent should be the mother. So the matriarch, the maternal rather than the paternal, should have the rights to the child. But there are women that I personally know of, to have passed on, who confess. They said, I didn't want the man, I just liked his brain. So I wanted to have a child and duplicate his brain in the earth. That's a true story. 3 of them. 2 have now been passed on. But they didn't care for the man. They wanted to duplicate the man. And in one case, they made the child that was the duplication. By the time they turned 15, 16, they made them like surrogate husband. They had their relationships outside, but they never got locked down with anybody. Then they went into alternative lifestyle, and they came back. They were back and forth and all that. But they just wanted the child. They took from the man because the man was smart. He was an idiot. He was not mature enough to understand a lot of things, but he was very, very, very smart. So she just wanted to have a very smart child. That was the actual motive for having a child. So men steal and women steal.
Yes, that's called selfish.
That's called narcissism, to be quite frank.
That too.
Yeah. All right, everybody, I'm gonna let you guys go. I hope you guys had a good time. And tonight we'll be back here at Shabbat at our 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. For those of you who like to learn what it means to Shabbat, how do you Shabbat? What's that about? Is this a commandment of God, Elohim? Is this not? Is this something we can do without? Who said we should do that, right? So we just teach what Shabbat is, and then we get into deeper revelations of his word. We stay in the Torah, and then we take the perspective or the lenses of the Torah, and then we look through the rest of our Bible. Hope that you guys would consider joining us if you're there. Moderators that are here with us right now, I'm glad to have you all. Thank you so much for your help, your time, and your aid. I want to make sure we get a couple of announcements out of the way before we leave here. This, again, is the Proceeding Word, and we are here every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. That we are here for the purpose of man shall not live by bread alone, but by the word of Elohim that proceeds out of the mouth of Elohim. Then every Wednesday, we have what's known as our Bible studies. That's at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time every Wednesday, right here on the same channels you're tuning in, whether you are on Clubhouse, YouTube, Facebook, IG, wherever you are. This is where we share our Bible studies. And we're right now in a very interesting topic, both Sunday and Wednesday this week, part 5, this tomorrow after Sabbath, where we'll be talking about the controversial subject matter of the origin and truth about the tithe. We take an entire month to break down the tithe. All right. So that'll be this Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time coming up. Then, of course, we have every Thursday, as we did last night, we have our Bible book club where we read the Bible slow. We read through the word, we read line upon line, precept upon precept, and we take it as a slow cook. We do not run. We just sit and let Yahweh's word speak to us, and then we glean what he wants. Again, we are Sabbath keepers tonight, Friday, 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and again tomorrow, which is Saturday, at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time until Sabbath is over. Once that's been done, we take all that time to stay in his word. Once that's done, we then have Sunday's service, which we call the Morrow After Sabbath service. We are Darash Kingdom Ministries. I am VWJ, head of VWJ Ministries, and we share from the word what we learned during Shabbat. This week, again, this Sunday, we're talking about the origin and the truth of the tithe. Hope you guys would like to join us for that. I'm going to speak shalom of your lives. And the word shalom is 13 attributes from the Hebrew word shalom. Shalom does not just mean hello, the way that modern Hebrew has made it. But wholeness, health, soundness of mind, completeness, fullness, rest for your soul, wealth, safety, tranquility, prosperity, perfectness, and welfare for your being. Those, when we say shalom to you, we are speaking those blessings over your life. And it is a real thing to have. Don't forget also, Zion, that we're coming up on the feast seasons of Pesach. That will be this April. We do keep the feast of Yahweh. We do honor them. People call it Resurrection Sunday and Palm Sunday and Good Friday. We don't. It is not that. Torah lets us know, the Bible, the Brit Hadessa lets us know what that day is. It's called Pesach. It happens on Nisan the 14th. It will be April the 4th this year. Then we have Hakat Matzah, the 7-day celebration of eating of the unleavened bread, which starts on April the 5th and until April the 11th at sundown. Then you have the great day, Nisan 16. That's Hag Bikurim. That's the first fruits. That's the resurrection of our Savior. That will be on April the 6th. At sundown. And we celebrate those days in the fashions that the writ tells us about. So if you don't have that schedule and you're looking at Facebook, you can pull that schedule down and have that attached to your schedule so you can tell it to your bosses that you won't be at work on those days. And you'll be honoring Elohim that entire 24 hours, and he can bless you in the process in which he has set for us to learn, to live, and to be embraced by. Well, again, my name is Apostle V.W. Jones. I hope and pray that you have been edified in this process called the Proceeding Word. We're looking forward to having you join us. If you're on Clubhouse, please follow my PTR. It would be nice if you did, and I'll look to follow you back. And also, if you're at the top of the page on Clubhouse, if you hit follow, follow me, and then hit that green button, that green house, the Monopoly house at the top, that will make you follow the club. Whenever we go live, you'll be notified and you can tune in or not tune in. But I hope that you'll follow me. So whenever I'm on any platform, and I'm asked to be on a lot of platforms in Christendom, you will hear us when we speak. So it's a joy having you all with us. Hope you've been edified. And at this time, we're going to leave you with this very clear and genuine thought.
If you need truth, this is the place for you. Don't need to complicate it. It's best to keep it basic. Open the book, the word is self-approved. He's Alpha and Omega, the answer since the early ages. What you should do is learn about the greatest. Just so you know, our door is always open. Let's study together instead of debating. Share our differences. Let love heal all that's broken.
Thank you for tuning in today. I hope that this message has been a blessing to your very life and your soul, and more importantly, your walk with the King. Well, we have come to the end. I hope that you would consider becoming either a partner with us in ministry, or if you're not already a kingdom citizen, consider becoming one. By doing that, you can sow into this ministry so that we are able to continue to teach this type of ministry at a grand scale. Join us on all of our social media platforms and visit our webpage to make your contributions sure. Thank you. Have a wonderful day. Shalom Aleichem.